The story begins in Seoul at the year 20-something. At the center of Gangnam District, Yeoksamdong, there's a building owned by Group D. Located at the very top floor was the training room for these professional gamers. These ones were the rank 1 team in a game called ROR. And right now, they were battling the player called Dex. The match has officially started. The game welcomed these characters on the battle rift. The 5 of them will be battling this one man, a mysterious player that called himself Dex. The pro players had been eyeing this player for a long time, and now they wanted to teach him a lesson. Their characters dashed towards Dex, but this guy maintained his composure and made a simple counterattack. With just one move, this guy's character was already defeated. The other 4 started to panic. They can't believe that their leader was defeated that easily. This assassin started to cast his spell and conceal his presence, but Dex immediately found his position. The assassin's attempt was blocked by Dex. Then he did a counterattack again and defeated the assassin. Their main tank and main damage dealer was now gone. Dex continued his attacks before they could even get to their formation again, and with that, all of them got crushed. These so-called pro players got wiped out by a solo player. Their reputation as the #1 team in this game was gone. The one that stands on the top now was this guy, a player named Dex. He single-handedly annihilated all of his opponents, and now all of the players were wondering what his real identity was. Turns out, our MC was just an ordinary kid playing in front of his computer. His name was Yoon Young. His nickname was Dan. Solo play Dan, player D, QWordy 123, and these 100 more IGNs he had used. But right now, his current nickname is Dex. His IGN was not really that important to him, because his main goal for all the games he had been playing was to always be the rank 1. And right now, he gained the number spot again as he defeated the pro players. His name rose up to the top, and since he had already achieved his goal, Dex did something. This shocked the players inside the game, especially these pro players. They thought that Dex was mocking them until the end. After achieving the highest rank in this game, the #1 player quitted. The next day, a delivery truck was on their way to deliver a package. The personnels inside were still talking about Dex and how he trolled everyone. The man at the passenger seat was still annoyed because he was a fan of the pro team that Dex destroyed. In this world, gamers who were using computers were slowly dropping, and there was one and only reason. It's this game called Arcadia. 3 of the world's leading companies, which were Agent Electronics, Argos Corporation, and Silikov, had combined work and created a new game in secret. And this newest online game was not available through computers. Players would have to log in using a machine called Dreamer. This was the world's first virtual reality machine. Inside Arcadia, a new world with infinite possibilities awaits everyone. This girl was their mascot, and their advertisements were all over the place. This truck a while ago was about to deliver the last Dreamer available, but they were confused because the address led them to this worn-out house. The windows even had some cracks on it. Inside this house was our main character, and he was excited because he could finally play this game. He then immediately logged in his account on the previous game he was playing. The most powerful character inside this game was about to be deleted, and our MC didn't even hesitate to do this, because right now, a new journey awaits him. C. Young had officially logged in inside Arcadia, and he was thrilled to see a new world which he will eventually dominate. There have been lots and lots of games that were created in our world, and some of them had features that the developers hid in plain sight. They could be some simple jokes or antics, or they could even be some power-ups that could break the whole game. These things were often called Easter eggs, and right now, this man had hid something in Arcadia as well. He left this secret mission to this artificial intelligence called Alice. Their main goal was to find the next bard for this game. Virtual reality is a technology that replicates the senses by connecting a device to someone's brain. This was now possible because of the machine called the Dreamer. This lets people live a new life in a different world. Our MC had finally logged in and entered the world of Arcadia. He was quite overwhelmed because there were a lot of people playing this game. He started checking all the basic stuff like his status window. Yi Young had named himself as Dex again and he currently was at level 1. He praised the interface of this game because it's not too complicated. He also received his first beginner quest, which was to eliminate a slime. This monster was the most basic and weakest monster in the game. Since this was a virtual reality game, players need to adjust their movements to move properly, and the game gave them some assistance through the use of skills. As for our MC, he didn't need any assistance at all. His skills were top tier and he immediately grasped the basics. Dex had killed his very first slime with ease. This also meant that his quest had been completed. After that, a new quest appeared, and this one required him to read 100 books. This confused our MC. He thought that this game was being shitty right now, but since this guy was a game addict, he went to the library to complete it. This was Adeline Public Library and it was being managed by these two girls. The purple-haired one was quite interested in something. She was looking at Dex, who had been reading for days non-stop. She explained that this was really a rare case because usually people would only browse through the books without understanding them. But right now, someone has really spent some time taking this quest seriously. The other lady thought that eventually Dex would give up, but then he approached her and asked for a sequel to a book he was reading. This lady was then shocked because this was the first time someone asked for the sequel of that book. This meant that he was reading them properly. Dex revealed that he found some interesting parts inside this book and he wanted to learn more of it. This book's title was History of Arcadia, the earliest trace of Adeline. Hearing this, the lady was left speechless. She immediately brought up the book that Dex was asking, and our MC thanked her. This book had these special markings all over it. Dex then asked her why this book was hidden separately from the prequel of it. Her expression towards Dex changed and she revealed that this book was only given to those who asked for it. Dex went back to his seat, and as he was about to open this book, something felt really weird. At the main control center of the game, which was managed by this AI, she detected something. A special event was triggered and it led to a hidden quest. The said character that triggered this was none other than our MC. The book was about a legendary adventurer. He hid a treasure at the lake in the beginner town, Adeline. There had been a lot of speculations about what this treasure was, but no one ever managed to find it. But something was certain. This treasure had the earliest trace of darkness. The legendary adventurer named Ezreal left it below the lake. Dex read this passage and it got him interested. He searched for the lake inside the beginner town and there was only one lake. It's called Irun Lake. After some time, our MC went to this place. He stood in front of the lake and just stared at it. He was now wondering how the piece of darkness would be inside this peaceful lake. But as he was about to give up, a series of notifications popped out. Dex, which was only at level 1, had triggered another quest just because he went in this lake. This quest has a quest rank of B+. These notifications had almost blinded our MC. This was the official quest given to Dex, the finding the traces of darkness. He was then confused because this quest was not appropriate to his level, but instead of getting scared, he suddenly felt excited. A purple light then started glowing below the lake. This figure was at the bottom of it, and it was oozing with this ominous aura around it. After receiving the quest, Dex decided to check the surroundings first, but he didn't find anything suspicious. The only place left to check out was the lake itself. He prepared himself for this task. Our MC then dove right into the water. He was quite shocked because this lake was really deep compared to its size. He couldn't even see the bottom of this lake. Meanwhile, at Arcadia's Korean branch, these people were all panicking because the main scenario had already been discovered. This man was Kwon Myung-han and he was general manager of the Arcadia Korean branch. He was quite stressed because their server was only a week old, but this already happened. His lackeys reported that one player had discovered one element in the game that could shake its world upside down. But since they also don't know what's really happening, he decided to report this first to his boss. After the meeting, these guys will now get back to work. Myung-han compared the progress of the Korean server to the US. The main scenario there was only discovered after 3 months. The main scenario's name was Brewing the Forgotten Darkness. Back to our MC, he was still trying to get the item below the lake. His skill in diving had already been improved up to the B rank, and it also increased his vitality. Dex had been 200 meters down the lake, but he hadn't seen the bottom yet. He was now thinking if he should just give this up. Usually, players would be raising their levels and take the lead in progressing inside the game. But as for what he was doing right now, this was the opposite. Dex also didn't have much time to waste because the payment for the capsule was at 920,000 won a month. That's around $700 right now. He was expecting to pay for this expense through selling the items he will get inside the game. But if he continued on doing this quest, he might not even reach his goal of earning at least 1 million won per month. Dex was a hardcore gamer at heart, and as he stared at these words, he knew he had to do it. This quest was only available for him. That already separated him from the other players inside the game. He has now decided to continue searching for this lost item. Meanwhile, at the Silicon Valley Silicoff's headquarters, this lady right here was resting on her bed. She was Jenica Paul, 15 years old, and she was the representative of Silicoff. She woke up as soon as she found out something. Jenica confirmed if the Korean server had really started the main scenario. This man on the other end of her screen told her that that was really the case. She was now wondering why the developer of the game would leave something that important in the beginner's town. One man did this thing, and she was quite annoyed about it. Jenica then searched the database for more information about this item. She found this. The hidden class is called Bard of Anarchy. As she read through its description, she wondered if someone could really break the game with this class. This class had no leveling concept and no attack capability, but it was then revealed that this class had one special ability. Jenica continued reading through the database, and she started shaking as she found out about this special ability. Her scream was heard all over the building. Back to Arcadia, 10 days had already passed. Someone emerged from the lake and a hand was holding this pendant. It was Dex, and he finally got the special item. His diving skill was now at a rank because of his non-stop attempt on getting this. He also completed his quest called In Search of the Traces of Darkness. The necklace he got was called Black Necklace, and he got this as his reward. This item has these ancient powers inside it, and the system reminded Dex to think for a long time before using it. And because of the reminder, he was now thinking if he really should use this or not. The system then asked our MC about his decision, and of course, because of his curiosity, he chose to use it. But then another question appeared and it confused him. This kept on going on and on and on and on. Dex was really getting frustrated because of the system's consistent warnings. After some time, the system finally changed its message and it was more like a person. Turns out, another man was controlling these messages, and he was quite amused because of Dex's tenacity. This one was hoping that Dex could also turn the world of Arcadia upside down, just like what he had been doing right now. Dex was just about to ask this man what his identity was. But then this light appeared in front of him. A notification saying that his class was changed to Bard of Anarchy appeared. This deleted the leveling system, and Dex acquired a new stat called Plausibility. A mission system was also added to his status window, and a new character was attached to him as a player. A new quest was given to Dex. At the Edeline Western Grassland, these players were busy hunting these slimes. One of the players charged his fist with powers, and he used this to eliminate this monster. He was also happy because the slime dropped a slime bell. His companion got jealous because this item was worth 50 bronze. This made him motivated to grind even more, even though they have a mock exam next week. But someone was lurking and just watching them. It was Dex, and he was wondering if the system really wanted him to kill these kids. 1 hour ago, Dex had been trying to delete his character, but he was not able to do it. The system forbade him. After changing to this hidden class, he immediately regretted it, and it was because of a simple reason. Dex found out that the Bard of Anarchy class will not let his character level up. Leveling up was the most basic system in every game. This determines the growth and progress of players, and without this, a character can't even grow any stronger. Dex thought that this would not affect him too much in the early game, but it will definitely make an impact at the later stages of the game. It could create a power gap between him and those high-leveled players. Just thinking about it made him lose hope. He then remembered the guy that talked to him before he accepted the hidden class. He thought that all those notifications were really important and they were really trying to stop him. Dex soon gave up on meddling with this unsolvable problem. He thought that since he can't do anything about it anyway, he'll just accept it. He now hopes that this hidden class will be useful in the future. After accepting his fate, he tried checking the other information about this class, and he found this new stat called plausibility. This stat has the capability of interfering with the things inside this world. It could easily bend the rules. After the stats are used, they will also be gone forever. Dex was quite confused after reading this. That's when he received the quest that was related to this class. He needs to kill the beginners that have not changed their jobs yet. And this quest has a 7-day time limit. And right now, he was stuck on spying on these kids. He was still hesitating on doing this quest because it will ruin the game for these kids. But he had no other choice. He was just trying to play the game as well. Dex was about to dash towards them. But something happened. Someone had already attacked these ones. And they were these 3 guys. They told the newbies that they were the ones who owned this hunting ground and they were not allowed to hunt in this area. Our MC was now confused about the identity of these players. Claiming this hunting ground didn't make any sense. The lady tried to defend their rights. This place was really a public area for all beginners, but this older guy stopped her from talking. This player named Crazy Monkey was now threatening them. This one noticed the color of his name and it was already red. This meant that this player had killed a lot of other players. This lady was starting to tremble because the other guy told her that he can easily find her real identity. He now commanded them to get lost or else things will get worse. This lady started screaming for help, but all the other players near them just stood up there and did nothing. The guy then mustered his courage and confronted these guys. He told them that this was just a game and everyone should just enjoy it. This statement made these guys speechless, but then they started laughing. Crazy Monkey then started introducing the real-world aspect of this game. All things were being determined by power, and this was the truth. Someone then agreed to Crazy Monkey's statement, but it was followed by an attack and it got the companion of Crazy Monkey. It was Dex, and he was regretting that he didn't take down this one with only one blow. He then continued on slashing his way towards this group, and they were instantly defeated. His in-game name color also started to turn into red. Our MC had just started his journey inside Arcadia. After killing these players, he earned 1 plausibility point each. Dex still doesn't know how to use this stat, but he thought that he would have a hard time collecting more points. He then heard a voice saying thanks to him. It was from these 2 newbies and they were asking our MC how they could repay him. Dex then told them not to thank him because he would be doing the same to them. This shocked these 2 players. He also told them not to resent him too much, because after all, this was just a game. This guy saw it on Dex's face, but before he could say anything, he already got slushed. Dex gained another 2 plausibility points, and right now, he was about to hunt for more. Especially those who were just watching this scene. These ones were frozen on their tracks upon hearing Dex. It was then followed by multiple screams coming from the hunting grounds. That same day, a rumor started spreading in the main page of Arcadia. Every newbie said the same thing. The real crazy one has appeared. Later that night, this owl was just lurking in the dark, and it saw this guy who was running for his life. He was already crying and begging someone to save him, but then he tripped on this rock. This player received a status ailment and he was injured. This reduced his movement speed. He then turned his head around to check something. A pair of red eyes were already catching up to him. A man with this dark cloak slowly walked towards him. It was our MC, and he had this scary expression on his face. This guy then tried to confront Dex. He told him that he had no reason to kill him, but Dex was already about to swing his weapon. This guy started telling him that he will report Dex's actions to the game management to get him punished. And this statement stopped our MC from keeling him over. He then cleared one thing to this player. It was the game itself that made him do this. This confused the player, and then he was cut in half. Dex gained another point because of this. After a whole day of eliminating players, he was finally sleepy. Inside the Arcadia game, there exists a penalty for each death of the players, and it will restrict them from logging back in for 24 hours. This was enforced to prevent people from getting addicted to playing the game. But right now, this penalty was being asked to be removed by a lot of players. The customer service response department of Arcadia was now receiving a lot of calls regarding the same problem. The general manager noticed this, and he found out that this was regarding PK that was happening inside the game. He got annoyed because they were still busy handling the main scenario thing, and right now, one player had caused another problem. It was also confirmed that this incident made a whole department work overtime tonight. Meanwhile, this was the current status window of RMC. He already killed 1,025 players. He achieved this for playing non-stop for 2 days. Dex's body was already at its limit, and all the screaming and pleading that were thrown at him also took a toll on his emotions. He now wonders if this quest was really alright because he had already disrupted the course of the game. He was still wondering why he got this quest in the first place. But right now, Dex thought that he really can't be bothered. He also heard some noises coming near him. It was from these slimes. These ones thanked our MC because he saved them from players that were killing them. This increased Dex's closeness towards the slime race. The slimes also surrounded Dex and gave him their expression of love. This made Dex happy because his actions were not in vain. It helped these slimes, but as he was having fun with these monsters, they heard something again. Flames also appeared. Dex knew what this was. He then said his goodbyes to his slime friends. Turns out, the flames were from the torches that were being held by this group of players. This guy stopped walking as he saw Dex. He then commanded everyone to chase this man. Dex continued running away. He was about to exit the forest, but at the end of this trail was a cliff and it cornered him. This guy was starting to boast because they had finally caught the culprit. Dex didn't even flinch and just smiled. This guy purposely jumped towards the end of the cliff. He was now free falling. This guy thought that this player was really crazy, but as Dex was still falling, he suddenly did something. He logged out from the game. After this incident, lots of videos started circulating on YouTube. It showed the things that our MC had done. The comment section also went crazy because most of them were killed in the process. The guy that Dex had killed started monitoring his movement, and he found out that Dex was just always around the slime hunting grounds. This made him think that maybe this mysterious player was just a low level. He also formulated a plan to get his revenge. He will level up and form a team against this player. The next day, people gathered in this plaza. This green-haired guy acted as their leader, and he thanked all of the players here for coming. Their main mission was to hunt this player who had been killing all of the beginners for quite some time now. This incident reminded everyone that Arcadia was a game that was based on the scenarios that the players had created. All the things that were happening would eventually create a new story inside this world. This process was being overseen by an AI named Alice. And right now, this AI detected the mission that the victims of Dex had made for themselves. She then created an official quest for these people. All of them got the notification. This quest was called Catch the Beginner Serial Killer. They need to capture this mysterious player who had been causing problems to all of them. After this quest appeared, the Korean branch was on red alert again. They were now panicking because a quest was created without them even knowing. This man named Kang Tae-hoon was scolding his team because he thought they were taking this scenario lightly. All the team could do was to take the blame. They could just wait until the analysis was done. This was clearly an emergency situation because the high-ups were involved. And after a few moments, one employee came in and told his boss that this was related to the main quest. Just after 2 days of finding the clue for the main scenario, that player had already managed to start it. This production and start phase have a huge difference between them. The production part can be compared to this seed being planted, and just after it absorbs enough nutrients, it will grow and start producing flowers. This was the start phase, and usually it would take months. But right now, these 2 phases were triggered in just 2 days. The director then analyzed the data because their estimation was completely off. He then saw this video of beginner murder. He found out that one player had been killing all the other newbies at the slime hunting colony. and this was the same player who had some relation to the main scenario. The team had already tried having some background checks on this player, but their access was already restricted by the headquarters. This guy was now wondering the identity of this player because the main HQ even protected him. As he browsed through the data even more, he saw something. The director saw that this player had already killed 1,025 players in just 2 days. Meanwhile, this culprit was just sleeping soundly. After a few moments, Dex finally woke up. He opened his computer and saw this banner created by the game itself. This was a special event intended to hunt the beginner killer down. He knew right away that this was about him. This post also had a whopping over 2,000 comments. Dex immediately thought that this was too bothersome. He was already thinking of ending the quest right now. But he remembered that he still needs to pay for the installments of this capsule. He logged in back to the game and wondered what he should do next. Dex didn't expect that the game would really create a quest like this. Right now, he was still at the slime colony hunting grounds. Players have stopped coming in here because of the incidents. RMC was already thinking about looking for other places, but then he heard something. It was this slime, and it looked like it was saying something. Not far from his location were these newbies who were doing their hunt. Turns out, they have been hunting this slime that caught Dex's attention. These two players immediately told Dex not to steal the slime. Dex just stared at this creature right here, and then he decided what to do. He slowly walked towards these players. One of them thought that Dex's features were kinda familiar, and when he had worn his cloak even better, this image struck an image. This player didn't recognize him yet and even threatened Dex. RMC smiled. He suddenly screamed and cat himself to make this guy's name red. Dex acted out as if the other player was a beginner murderer, and hearing this made these players' eyes turn red. Their brains were already thinking about the rewards they could get after completing the special quest. This one was about to explain his side, but Dex and the slime were already running away. It was also too late for any explanation because all of the players within the area were already after the other guy. They were now trapped in this cliff. The one who thought that Dex's image was familiar remembered the video on YouTube. RMC had successfully framed them. After that, Dex was now happy because they had escaped. The slime also followed him and gave him its thanks. And because Dex saved another one, his closeness with its race was increased. He got the title called Friend of Slimes. He thought that this was because he killed so many newbies and it prevented them from hunting the slimes in these areas. Dex thought that this scenario wouldn't still help him progress inside the game, but then more notifications popped out. He had reached the minimum requirement for plausibility. This meant that since he had this high relationship with the slimes, he could use the plausibility stats to help them. This was the current stats of the slimes. They were only at level 1. He also saw the plausibility stat below the status window. Dex tried absorbing this development, and then he had this evil smile. He started screaming because he thought that this game was really fun. RMC tried using the stats towards this creature and it created this bright light, and it worked. The system asked him if he would really apply these changes, and of course, RMC said yes. This was the power of the hidden class, Bard of Anarchy. A huge ray of light came from the skies, and this notification came up. The basic stats of the slime race have been changed. The ones were now at level 15 and gained these powerful aura around them. In every game, monsters were the ones who were being hunted by the players. They were always playing a huge role in every RPGs. And every player that was about to start their journey needed something to test their skills from. They were often called tutorial monsters. And the most notorious monster in every game that gamers have played were these cute and harmless creatures called slimes. But what if the weakest monsters in the game suddenly grew strong and beginner players were not able to hunt them anymore? In the video streaming site called YouTube, there were a lot of tutorials being posted on how to hunt these ones. There were even videos about the journey of the players to greatness. But this specific video caught the attention of the viewers. The video started as the player was being logged into the game. The creature was really impressed by the graphics of the game. He started looking around his surroundings until he found this slime that looked too cute. The creator was about to kill it, but then something happened. The slime suddenly dashed towards him, and in a few more seconds, the video ended. The creator died and he can't log in for another 24 hours. And because of this, his video became viral. The comment sections were also in chaos because they experienced the same fate. This was a product of using 1025 plausibility points towards the weakest monster in the game, and it created a total annihilation towards the newbies of this game. This innocent-looking monster was not the same anymore. Newbies can't even damage them. Meanwhile, our MC was just chilling while watching these newbies. He thought that this was really a crazy idea. Usually, slimes will not attack players if they were not attacked. They were too passive, but right now, they have turned into more aggressive monsters. Dex thought that maybe its characteristics changed when he leveled them up. This was a power of plausibility. It could change the normal flow of the game. And Dex was starting to grasp the strength of the stat. He also saw these guys who initiated the special hunting quest towards him. This green-haired guy was now screaming because they were already being overwhelmed by slimes. This one jumped in front of him, and he had no time to react. A huge explosion was then seen in the area. The once innocent slimes were now turned into real monsters. The green-haired guy was one-shot by this strengthened slime. These ones were now devastated. They tried getting away, but more slimes came in. Dex gained more plausibility points as the slimes killed the players. This feature gave him a sense of satisfaction. 2 hours later, HI's plausibility points were now at 3,924. This was far more than the points he had collected the past 2 days. The slimes were doing all the work for him, and right now, the current body count is at 4,949 and he still has around 4 days before this quest expires. Dex thought about strengthening the slimes even more, but the system told him that this was their max level. He was quite disappointed finding this out, but still, this was really better than nothing. Besides that, he got these cute little ones with him now. Our MC gave them a boost in confidence as he told them that he will be counting on these slimes. Meanwhile, at the Korean branch, the general manager of this branch was already furious. He was now asking his team for some reports about the game. This guy reported that at exactly 1,320 hours, the stats of the slimes were suddenly boosted up, and this cost them a lot of beginners being killed. This incident is still ongoing right now, and they haven't heard anything from the headquarters. The director asked how strong these slimes became, and this guy revealed that they were now 10 times stronger than normal. All of the employees thought that their boss was kinda scary. Upon thinking about this information that was given to him, he was kinda shocked. He asked his employees how much the beginner player's basic HP was. It was around 100 HP exactly, and that only meant one thing. A level 1 beginner player could get one shot by these slimes. This boss immediately walked out of the room. He needed to check these himself now because he thought that Arcadia wouldn't make a mistake like this. The boss entered the room that had a capsule in it. He will be logging into the game to assess things personally. The system immediately granted him his access as level 3 administrator. The director was then transported to this room, and he confronted the AI that was overseeing all the things that were happening inside the game. Alice just stared at him. Meanwhile, Dex was now at the beginner hunting ground. He was already wondering why no players were coming in here. This was the current status of his personal quest. He already killed 9,640 players, and he still has 2 days more. He thought that maybe the rumors have spread out already, that's why the kill count has slowed down. More high-leveled players also started coming in here because of the experience points they could get. The slimes were having a hard time defending themselves. Dex thought that he could not really do something about this right now. The numbers of players being killed just slowed down but not stopped completely, and after a while, it reached 10,000. The system then gave him an achievement for killing 10,000 players. He got the title of Beginner Killer. He also got an intermediate reward for this achievement. Dex was happy seeing this and he accepted this reward. A black lightning suddenly appeared in front of him. He thought that maybe this reward was just a trap because of the flashy effects it had. After that, a black orb was then left in front of him. Our MC thought that maybe this was a reward. It looked like more of an egg. This black thing started to have some cracks, and a few more seconds later, it opened. The system told Dex that he successfully received the reward, and it was this kind of familiar. This scary-looking monster asked Dex his identity, and right now, our MC was quite thrilled as he saw his newest familiar. It was releasing this immense pressure around it. Dex stopped smiling because of what he read. The name above the familiar says that this one was a monarch of chaos, the demon king named Satan. The familiar then smiled because he already knew that a complete summoning was impossible. He reverted back to his younger self. This was the current form of the demon king. He really doesn't mind this because even if he only had a little power, this was enough to kill all the angels. After this introduction, Dex just stared at his new familiar. Satan was too small. His expressions changed because he didn't expect his new form to be like this. He then turned his attention to Dex. Our MC explained to him what really happened. He told Satan that he received a reward and the system told him that Satan was now his familiar. This shocked Satan. He thought that he can't be under anyone's command. There were also no negotiations formed to call this one a contract. Dex found him weird because he had no idea what Satan was really saying. Our MC stared at the current demon king even more. His previous self would have looked like this, but now he was like a little kid. Satan then accepted the situation. He addressed Dex and told him that they will now be spending a lot of time together. He flew right above Dex's head and sat on it. He told Dex that he hoped that they would get along. Dex felt weird because the demon king was just casually sitting above his head. Satan also felt something. He figured out that Dex has an immense power inside him. The system then told Dex that he could use the power of plausibility to unleash his familiar's true power. But it reminded him that his familiar was a demon and it could just deceive and tempt him. Satan's facial expression changed as he found out that his master could give him enough power to annihilate all the angels. He then bluntly asked Dex if he could give him some power. Satan was referring to the power that could disrupt the whole world, and Dex immediately figured things out. Satan was talking about the plausibility. He then started tempting our MC with his sweet words. He told Dex that if he could give him some plausibility, Satan could give him anything he wants. Right now, Dex has around 9,000 points. He thought that this stat was really a special element inside this game and asked Satan what he would give in exchange for this power. This familiar just smiled, and then he started summoning this dark magic circle. He then summoned this item called Nargle's Lament. This was a special cloak that can be equipped by players level 150 and above. It also had great defensive stats. Dex thought that level 150 was really too much. The US server who had started ahead of them only had players around level 50 seconds. And as for our MC, he told Satan that he didn't really need this cloak. Satan knew that his master wouldn't be satisfied with just a mere cloak and he asked him what he really wanted. Dex had nothing in his mind right now, but then he remembered something. Dex asked Satan if he could strengthen the power of monsters, and the monster he was talking about was the slimes. The Demon King was dumbfounded by this answer. He then started laughing because he didn't expect this answer from his master. He got more fond of Dex now because he was too interesting. After that, Satan told him that this work was just a piece of cake to him. He asked Dex how much plausibility he would give him, and our MC told him that he will give all the points he has right now. Satan was really satisfied with this deal. He hurriedly sealed the deal and summoned his magic circle. This made their contract official. Lots of dark lightning appeared in the forest. While these were all happening, the slimes were getting killed. Stronger players had come to hunt them. They were also taking advantage that these slimes were giving too much experience points. This made this spot a perfect spot for the stronger players. They will use this momentum to even level up faster. But then the ground started shaking. A weird voice was then heard. It provoked the anger of the slime race. The voice grew stronger and something emitted this dark lightning. A dark aura started enveloping the slimes and it grew their thirst for revenge. These ones were now filled with anger. These players felt an immense pressure coming from the slimes. This guy was speechless. He was witnessing something too horrible. The slimes around the area started floating. He thought that he was about to die, but as he opened his eyes, He saw all the slimes were heading towards one direction. This water-type player asked everyone if this was real. The slimes were slowly combining themselves up and forming something huge. The players then received a notification from the system. It told them that the slimes who once loved peace as they strolled across the green fields have already decided. They were just being killed by adventurers, and all of this anger made them want to have revenge against the players. This huge creature was formed. It was a level 100 monster and it was called the Slime Queen. This was a monster who would lead the slimes against the players. The Slime Queen released a loud screech throughout the area. This was enough to blow all the nearby trees around it. The pressure was also too much. Its attack was enough to kill most of the players. And this guy was frozen because he didn't know what to do. In front of him was a huge monster and its strength could be considered a disaster. Meanwhile, our MC was just watching the scene with Satan. He then asked his familiar what it did. Satan told him that he just followed his command to strengthen the slimes. But for Dex, this was way too much. They were even being blown away by the force of this Slime Queen. Amidst this chaos, Satan was celebrating because the Slime Queen was too feisty. She could even pass among the ranks of his demon army. He was thrilled to see that the weakest monster in this world could use its thirst for revenge and create something like this. He then revealed that Satan just stirred the slime's emotions for a bit and used some of the plausibility that Dex gave him. This plausibility has the power to evolve certain monsters into this level even if they were just given a bit of it. That's the power that Satan has. He could improve anything to the maximum extent as long as he has plausibility. And right now, the situation has changed. The slimes were the ones who were now hunting the players. These ones were all stronger players now, but they were still being overwhelmed. The system also created a linked quest regarding this main scenario, and it was shown all over the players that were inside the beginner village. This was the newest quest. They needed to protect the town and kill the Slime Queen. They have a 7-day time limit, and players would only be defeated if the Guardian Crystal that was in the middle of the city was destroyed. This shocked everyone because this quest has a penalty. The beginner town will be destroyed if they fail. The pressure of the slimes were now being felt throughout the village, and not long after, they all saw this huge monster coming towards them. Satan asked his master what they would do while everyone was busy fighting the slimes. He even gave our MC an idea to secretly destroy the crystal to defeat the players. This was a perfect example of a demon's whisper. Dex stood up and told his familiar that he would just observe for now. Satan thought that his master would just see it out and then destroy all the hopes of the players right at the last moment. He was kinda proud because his master was a true devil. After a few moments, he was bombarded with notifications saying that he gained more points. Dex thought that Satan's statements were true. Eventually, our MC would have to choose which side he would be helping on. This guy just smiled because he will choose the side that will give him more benefits in the long run. The Slime Queen continued approaching the village full of players. This monster has insane stats. She also has some skills like rapid regeneration and shared consciousness. This scene was being monitored by the people who were assigned to the Korean branch of Arcadia. The director was just focusing and waiting for what's gonna happen next. Someone stood up and told him that they should just take the server down. It was Kang Taehoon and he was the department head. He added that they can't just let a level 100 monster roam around the village that was intended for new players who were just learning how the game works. This lady named Wang Jihai agreed to this suggestion. She was the top designer of the team and she didn't design a monster like that. She thought that maybe it's the headquarters who created this monster. The pressure was already piling up because of all the complaints they were getting. The director didn't say a single thing. He was busy thinking about the things that caused this disaster. It started with this man who started killing the beginners. And now, this huge monster appeared all of a sudden. He was now starting to get the gist of all these things. The director then asked everyone if they already knew what the game really wanted to achieve. Arcadia wanted to have a world with infinite possibilities and infinite freedom. He threw an idea to everyone that this scenario right here was not even planned by the headquarters itself. This incident was caused by a single player. The appearance of the main scenario, The beginner killer and the slime stats manipulation all led to this disaster. This revelation created some fuss inside the meeting room. They can't believe that something like this was even possible, and since this was caused by a player inside the game, they can't really interfere. This was a #1 rule inside Arcadia. They would need to let this scenario finish even if there was a penalty behind it. If players would not be able to defeat this monster and defend the village, it will be permanently destroyed. And right now, some of the parts of the beginner village were already on fire. Players were busy fending off these slimes who had entered the premises of the village. Even the NPCs inside the game were now defending this place. This one was even thinking where these slimes came from. But then, this purple appeared and he was caught off guard. He thought that he was already done for. But someone appeared in front of this old man NPC and saved him. It's a player and he suggested the old man go and retreat. He then immediately complied and backed off. These two luckily escaped the dangerous situation. This old man named Bairn was a security trooper and he thanked this player for saving his life. And this one was reliable and humble enough to give him a thumbs up. But then the old man insisted that what he did was too righteous and he can't really thank this player enough. This old man then told the player that after this incident, he should go and look for him. Again, this scenario had created a special quest for the player again and it asked him if he would accept this class called Savior. The player was shocked seeing this because he only heard this from rumors. He immediately accepted it because he knew this was an important quest. The old man then changed the topic because they have some other things left to do. They needed to stop this monster from destroying their village. This fierce battle continued for over 3 days. During these days, the players were still being overwhelmed by the slimes, but the Korean server's players were known because they never backed down from a challenge. All the high-level players learned about the situation and they started to come into the village to provide some backups. The beginners also started to adjust their strategies and formed a separate alliance. The players who also killed more than 1,000 slimes all got a title called Slime Slaughter. This title gave them 30% defense and 40% damage against the slimes. And this started to change the course of this battle. The players saw a new ray of hope. They thought that this strategy was now working wonders for them. Meanwhile, Dex was just out there watching this battle. The quest he got last time had already accumulated around 32,000 kills. And naturally, Satan was happy to see this scene. He started to laugh and praised his master so hard because he was more like a demon than him. Dex also managed to collect over 22,000 plausibility points. His familiar asked him again about what he will do right now. Satan was talking about the fight that was happening. Because eventually, the players were still destined to win this battle. Their group was already gaining too much momentum. Dex didn't respond right away as if he thought about this. He then smiled. Our MC has equipped his dark cloak again. Satan was shocked because he saw some blood on his master's cloak. Dex was about to choose a side right now. Satan smiled as if he already knew what his master was thinking. Starting from now, they will take the side of the slimes. They'll continue the story with this building of Arcadia's Korean branch. The director was talking with this lady in front of him. He was asking her to stop the raid being held inside the game right now. This lady was the CEO of Arcadia, and her name was Lee Myung. Back inside the game, the 7-day time limit that was given to all the players was both long and short at the same time. The beginner village was also more known now as the battlefield, and right now, the sun has finally shown itself. There's only 10 minutes and 42 seconds left before the raid ends. The players were now starting to calm down because the slimes were nowhere to be found. They thought that the slimes had already given up. They have successfully defended the village, but it was really not over yet. The time was still ticking, and as soon as it hit the 10-minute mark, something happened. The sky suddenly turned red. It turns out that a while ago, it was calm before the storm. Every player in the village knew that something bad was about to happen. Our MC then appeared and had this smile on his face. This guy was standing at the top of the level 100 slime queen. And the party was about to get started. One of the players started shouting at his fellow players as this quest was really close to being over. But then they were all terrified. The slime queen had already started moving again. These players have been killing their kinds for a long period of time now, and they have lost countless lives because of this nonsense. Right now, they were the ones who felt the pressure of being hunted. This boss monster right here appeared to avenge all the slimes that have died. There's still 9 minutes and 58 seconds left, and I bet that this will be the longest 10 minutes of these players' lives. The slime queen started attacking. She deployed all the slimes, and right now, they were all purple in color. The players started running because of the overwhelming force they were against. Some of them were still hoping that everyone would maintain their formation, but it was too late. This one who was leading these players suddenly felt something. A huge hand was about to crush him. He knew right away that he messed up. He thought that Arcadia was just trolling them because it was impossible to stop this monster right now. But then a ray of light appeared, and an attack was able to land onto the slime queen. It was from this player, and he shouted to all the players inside the village. This made everyone stop on their tracks. He told them that they only needed to defend the village crystal for about 5 minutes more. This was the one he was talking about. He told them that they should protect this at all costs. Their pride as the best server in the world was also on the line, and this was enough to wake all of their fighting spirits. They all raised their weapons. This one was happy because he was able to control the chaotic situation. But right now, the slime queen was already at the walls of the village. The players lined up to stop her from reaching the crystal. There were only 10 seconds left. As every second passed by, the fights also got more intense. The players were throwing and sacrificing themselves for this quest. This one had already finished charging his final attack. He jumped in front of the slime queen, but his attack was only blocked by this shield. Even if his attack was not successful, he was still laughing because he did his part. He bought them more time, and right now, there's only seconds left. Back to the matter inside the Korean branch. This CEO asked the director if he was asking for her authority to really stop the slime raid. She stood up and told him that she couldn't do anything about this. She explained that they were not the gods of Arcadia, and all they could do was to manage it. All they could do was come up with some countermeasures and not erase the whole incident. This was their only role inside this game. Right now, this player who led everyone was now resting beside the crystal. He was quite satisfied because he thought that this was already over. But then the crystal started to crack. The system then notified all the players that the crystal was destroyed and that they failed to protect the village. A certain person was standing beside the crystal with his weapon inside it. It was our MC. He told the red-haired player that his hands had slipped. This made the player dumbfounded. He can't believe what just happened right now. The beginner village will now be officially destroyed. Amidst this chaos, Dex was disappointed because he didn't get any points from killing the red-haired player. The other players rushed towards the center of the village as well because they thought that it was impossible for the slimes to get in here. As they stopped, they saw what really happened. The one who destroyed the crystal was not a monster, but a fellow human. Our MC was more suitable to be a monster in this case. These guys were all furious and were asking Dex why he did this. They even called him a troll because he was messing around too much. The remaining players all rushed towards our MC. They all wanted to know his nickname, but Dex told them that this was really not the time to do this. The notification about the village being permanently destroyed appeared. The slime queen suddenly exploded. It was then followed by this bright purple light appearing up in the skies. A green mucus coming from the ground started floating around. Some of them thought that this was the process of creating more slimes, and a few moments later, it really happened. This blob of green thing suddenly made a sound like those of the slimes. A bright blinding light appeared again. The slimes started combining themselves, and this was them right now. They turned into huge purple slimes. The ones who were being taken for granted by the beginners started screaming because they won this battle. This was their wrath, and they successfully made the humans feel it. They were not the same innocent monsters before. Right now, they even have a ruler that will lead them. Dex and Satan were pretty amazed at the slime queen's newest form. The beginner village was also changed into one of the slime's territories. All of the remaining players inside this place received a notification. They were inside a hunting area, and the recommended level in this place was level 80. There's no way they could survive this place. Slimes that were even larger than them was all over the place. Dex was quite amused because of this situation. There was chaos all over the place. After a while, this incident also caught the media's attention. This lady reported that the most popular game suddenly received a lot of complaints because of what happened in the beginner's village. And while all of these were happening, Yi Young was just sleeping. This guy really felt the burden of disrupting the whole game. Soon enough, our MC woke up. This reporter said that the beginner village was turned into a monster dungeon now. Yi Young just stared at his phone while listening to this news. This incident really attracted a lot of attention. The comment section of this article was being bombarded with negative feedback from the users of Arcadia. But one comment caught our MC's attention. Someone knew that this incident was related to the beginner killer. This guy knew the amount of hassle he had created for other people. He thought that he should just lay low for now. Some of these players even lost something important, like the guy who was about to have the advancement quest for helping the old man NPC inside the village. In Yi Young's defense, he was just playing the game like everyone else. There were still a lot of things he wanted to know, like the real purpose and mission of his hidden class, the resurrection of his familiar which was the king of all demons, and the mysterious person who gave him the title Bard of Anarchy. Yi Young took a second to absorb all of this information, but then he thought that he really can't be bothered with these things. After all, it was the game's fault for creating a quest like that. Right now, he will focus on the present first. Our MC was still a college student, and he was enrolled as a computer engineering student in Xiamen University. He will be having his orientation today. He got into the room and sat down. Even if he was a hardcore gamer, he still looked forward to how his college life will be. He then saw something. The guy who was sitting next to him was watching a video, and this video was the one where he destroyed the crystal. Yi Young was now shocked because he didn't notice anyone recording him at that time. This video has already over 2 million views. He wondered why people watch this thing, and he immediately thought about the money that this video could generate. The guy beside him noticed Yi Young's actions and asked if he was also interested in the video. He then introduced himself to our MC, and his name was Yi Jun. Yi Young didn't expect that this guy would be too friendly, but he also introduced himself. This guy then started talking about Arcadia and all the things that were related to this video. Our MC kind of felt relieved because he thought that Yi Jun was just really into Arcadia. But then this guy asked something. He asked Yi Young if he knows something about the beginner killer. Yi Young started panicking because this was too much of a coincidence. He now wondered if this guy knew that he was a person in that video. Meanwhile, at the Arcadia Korean HQ, Lee Myung was watching the video about the beginner village and saw that it really got destroyed. She thought that things would get more busy around. They already expected these kinds of things happening inside the game, but this incident was too extreme. But this seemed to be a good thing because she smiled. This incident had caught more attention of the public, and it resulted in people wanting to also play the game. Her company will also take this one as a lesson. She was also impressed because all of these things were done by a single user. She was now interested in how this player looked. Back to Xiamen University. Our MC was still panicking from the question he just got. Yi Jun also tapped him on his shoulders. This guy thought that Yi Young knew nothing about Arcadia and started to brag that he could rely on him. He then started explaining everything to our MC. He treated him as a newbie. Yi Young thought that this guy has sharp deducting skills and he can't let his guard down. And since Yi Young was too occupied with his thoughts, Yi Jun thought that he had talked too much. After a few moments, their proctor came in. This man was Professor Kim Tae-hoon, and he was the one in charge of the computer engineering department. He came in here to greet all of the students in this course, and he told them that he will be announcing something important. The professor then mentioned the latest technology called virtual reality. This thing didn't only steer the media but also did a major change in their course. The professor mentioned Arcadia, and it caught our MC's attention. Those who had already played this game knew that computer engineering alone will not be able to keep up with this. He revealed that the faculty and the university itself already had a discussion and concluded that their current curriculum was too outdated for this thing. Yi Young agreed with these statements. Eventually, the world will be revolving with virtual reality. Professor Kim Tae-hoon then revealed that the computer engineering course will now be gone, and it will be changed to virtual reality engineering. This created a confusion in the students' minds, but he insisted that this move was really necessary so they could catch up to the world. After that shocking news, the students were all in the cafeteria. Yi-young and Yi-jun were still together taking their lunch. This Arcadia fan talked too much. He was not stopping about mentioning the game. This guy then asked our MC if he was playing Arcadia. He then made an alibi that he wanted to play the game but the capsule was too expensive. He also told Yi-jun that he was not really good at playing games. He also quickly changed the topic and threw the question back to Yi-jun. And of course, he plays Arcadia. He started bragging and told our MC that he was already a high-leveled player. He advised Yi-young that if ever he will be playing the game, he should contact him. The newbies right now were being spawned at a random place because the beginner village was already gone. Yi-young thought that Yi-jun was just really a nice guy. After that long day inside the university, our MC had logged in and he was greeted by Satan and his wines. He was annoyed because his master hadn't logged in for days. Dex thought that maybe this familiar got too bored while waiting for him. This sound was then heard somewhere near them. He then quickly turned his head towards the direction of the sound. Our MC was caught off guard because the slime queen rushed and hugged him. The other slimes then followed their leader's action. He was overwhelmed by these monsters. Dex was starting to have difficulty breathing. Satan was also not safe from these cute slimes and he got slammed on. A few moments later, these ones calmed down. The slime queen bowed her head and paid her respects to Dex. The system told Dex that this race will be eternally grateful to him and they will not forget the thing he did for them. Dex became the eternal savior of the slime race. His title got an upgrade from being Slime's friend to Slime's savior. Our MC also got a reward called Slime's crown, and it appeared right above his head. The plausibility points of Dex was also increased by 2,413 points because he completed the quest called Slime's Wrath. Dex was clearly happy with the rewards he got. This title gave him a lot of additional stats. This guy had gained 2 titles and both of which he can't show to anyone. Beginner Killer and Slime's Savior will get him into trouble. Satan then suggested that they should just leave this area. The Demon King thought that he was done with these monsters, and our MC agreed. The Slime Queen then said her goodbyes to Dex. This was the same for the entire slime race. Dex was about to start another journey. Not far from the beginner village's previous location was this city, and something weird was being hidden inside this village. After the slime raid that destroyed the village, people started looking for new places to start their journey, and someone had posted this place on the internet. It was called Mikhail Barony. The place was only 10 kilometers away from the beginner's village. This new information quickly spread throughout the players and they all went in there. Everyone went to Mikhail Barony including our MC. He was greeted by this lively city. The guard did his routine checks and asked Dex his identity. All the guards were assuming the new faces were all from the beginner's village. This one was wondering what really happened in that place. All they heard was a bunch of slimes went on rampage. Dex then discovered that NPCs could also learn about the rumors spreading inside the game and he thought he should be careful answering these questions. Our MC revealed to the guard that Edeline became a den of monsters now and the minimum level requirement for that place was level 85. This NPC was now starting to understand the reason why lots of people started coming in their place. Dex thanked him for allowing him to enter the city. Meanwhile, Satan was busy looking for something. He was quite agitated around this area. He thought that this place was familiar to him but he can't remember why. Satan was also annoyed because Dex kept on calling him Tan. He didn't like the nickname that his master gave to him. Our MC then told him that the name Satan could attract the attention of the other players. Hearing this reason made Satan flattered. This familiar then brought up the plausibility stat again. He asked Dex what he would do with this power. Currently, Dex has around 33,000 plausibility points. Satan was already drooling because this meant that his master had killed around 40,000 players already. Dex knew that Satan was about to ask for more plausibility but then he firmly denied this request. This guy started whining again. He tried bribing his master again for more items. He even told Dex that he could easily defeat a whole country by using one of his items. Our MC was really not interested with this negotiation right now, and it annoyed Satan. Dex thought that Satan's offers were not really that bad. They were even too tempting. But he knew that he can't just rely on his familiar and the plausibility stat. He thought that maybe he could use this power for more important things. And the most important part was this: accepting an overpowered item right away will take out the fun of playing the game. Dex finally entered the city, and it was full of people. The businesses around were also thriving because of the surge of people inside the city. Dex was planning to roam around for a bit and look for some interesting quest along with it. While thinking about this, he overheard something. It was from these guys who were inside a pub. This guy was having a problem because his boss ordered an increase in the production of the ores. But this request was impossible because even right now, they barely had a full day of rest. This other guy agreed. They can't really do something that was impossible. Hearing this, Dex let out his evil smile again, and it startled Satan. Our MC thought that this scenario was interesting. Satan, on the other hand, was starting to get scared for his master. Dex didn't waste any more time and called these two. He approached and told them that he could be the answer to their problem right now. These NPCs' faces lit up and were thrilled hearing this. Dex got a new quest from this, and it was called Miner's Concern. This quest requires him to mine 20 iron ores. Satan thought that this quest was really boring and anyone could do this one. But Dex felt something different about this one. He told Satan to look around his surroundings. This place was full of people wanting to buy some weapons. This familiar thought that there was nothing special about this scenario because all he saw was a bunch of blacksmiths. But then, Dex revealed that these blacksmiths who were offering repairs and weapons were not NPCs. They were players. This was probably because of the influx of people that gathered in the city. The blacksmith NPC's iron supply was not enough to sustain the demand for weapons. Most of the players were also rejecting the mining quest because it was too boring. This quest was about supply and demand, and this could create a huge impact again. Dex told Satan that soon he would understand the importance of this concept. But before all these things, they will focus on earning money first. At the city office of Mikhail Barony. This one was Mikhail, and she was the one who was in charge in this city. She seemed to have a lot of things on her mind. She was analyzing the sudden price increase of iron ores. Before, they were worth 10 bronze each. But right now, they were already at 15 bronze. Mikhail knew that this would be a major problem for the blacksmiths because they could not earn any profit. This could also create a chain of problems, and it would make their city produce lesser weapons. She knew that she needed to solve this matter quickly. Meanwhile, at Mount Fine, there was this place called Mine Entrance 1. Our MC went to the deepest part of this cave to make sure no one could see them. He commanded Satan to do something for him. This familiar asked his master if this was really okay. Dex assured him that this was just fine. Satan then started using his magic. Dex had given him 8,000 plausibility points for this contract, and our bad boy Satan brought up this item. This one was called the Den Destroyer, and it was a type of drill for mining. It has great stats and buffs on getting high-quality materials. Dex was planning to use this overpowered item inside this cave and get wealthy. Meanwhile, at the city of Mikhail Barony, the market was still thriving. This girl was looking to buy 20 ores from the other players as she also wanted to complete the miner's quest. One guy approached her. He told her that this quest was really not worth it. Having a good relationship with the miners will also not benefit her that much. He told her that it would be more profitable if she mined them herself and sold the ores directly. This conversation was heard by these two blacksmiths. Aiden was now annoyed because the adventurers bought all of their ores at a cheap price and now they were selling it above 50% markup. Kashim agreed with his sentiment. These people appeared in their town and suddenly they were the ones controlling the market. They hoped that the Baroness would do something about this because this could end their city sooner or later. Arcadia's economy was not different from the real world. It also has the production and consumption concept. Even the supply and demand plays a huge part inside the game. Each area has different products that they specialize on, and this encourages them to do the distribution and trading to other areas. Right now, the most popular and in-demand resource was the iron ores. This player was now being annoyed because iron ores were scarce already. Many of them had changed to a blacksmith job advancement to take advantage of the demand for weapons. And since more and more blacksmiths were being created, the demand for their number one ingredient skyrocketed. One iron ore was now at 17 bronze ores. It's much more expensive right now. Some of them would even go out of business because of this trend. Adventurers were starting to complain about the game more. This was too realistic for their taste. Some of them thought why not mine the ores themselves, but they immediately rejected the idea because it was too much hassle. For starters, the travel time between the city and the mines was already 2 hours. Then, it was followed by the difficulty of getting the ores itself. Sometimes, their equipment might even break. These experienced players explained to this kid that it was better to just focus on improving their mining efficiency by repairing the weapons. In the back of their minds, mining was simply not profitable. But this stereotype was not the case for a certain someone who knows. And right now, he was still busy drilling the sheet out of this mining spot. Our MC had gained a lot of iron ores in just a short period of time. Sometimes, he even got rare ores like the silver ones. His mining skill was already at a rank. This rank up will improve his chance of finding rare materials, and it increased his stamina by 10. Dex was now tired from this hardcore mining he had done. This was all the materials he got from this session. A whopping 1,024 iron ores and some bonus rare materials as well. He thought that this was really worth it considering he spent a lot of plausibility points getting the drill. Satan then greeted his master again. All this time, they have separated. This familiar thought that his master will not be satisfied with the drill and did something more. He used his magic again and was about to offer another item in exchange for more plausibility points. And it's this item. This one was called the Tears of Darkness. It required the user to be at least level 221st. And it boosts the darkness infinity of the bearer. It also has 2 special skills, and it could help Dex detect invisible enemies. But our MC rejected this offer. He's sure that he doesn't need anything right now. He then explained why this item was not really useful to him. This overpowered item will not even have a buyer because of its level requirement, and it will make the game too boring. This will also make the people investigate his identity, and eventually, they could find out who he really was. Satan asked his master to stop explaining because he gets it now. Aside from these things, Dex asked Satan where he had been all this time. This guy already has his devil expression, and it made our MC curious. But Satan wanted to save the answer to maintain the thrill and excitement. He then praised his master because of all the items he got. Dex intends to do this every day and sell these ores to make some money. He intends to sell this to all the miners inside the city to increase their relationship with him. Having this kind of good relationship with the miners will eventually pique the interest of the Baroness. This is what he was really after. Meanwhile, Mikhail was still busy having these meetings. She had started receiving a lot of letters and concerns from the miners. They were all asking for her assistance. But this lady can't really do anything right now. They figured that this problem was caused by the sudden influx of players coming in their city, and these ones were all choosing the blacksmith job advancement. All these players were all novice blacksmiths, and the ones who wanted to reach the artisan or master level required more iron ores. This demand for iron ores was not met with the increase of the people mining them because the players thought that this quest was such a hassle. They even checked their policies if they could require everyone to at least mine some ores. They were now being bombarded with problems, and it seemed that they didn't have a way out of this one. That was until this guard barged in. He informed the Baroness about something. Outside the mansion was this mountain of iron ores. The people that saw this thing were all wanting to buy some because they were all high-grade ores. The Baroness came out and was confused about what she saw. Meanwhile, our MC was just chilling in this place waiting for something to happen. From the amount of ores he had sold to the miners, he gained around 5 gold and 12 silver. He computed his earnings, and this was equivalent to 512,001 or almost $400. He thought that this profit would be enough to sustain his payments for the capsule, rent, and his tuition fees. Dex knew that he could do something more to improve his earnings. And while he was still thinking, he heard a voice addressing him. It was from Mikhail. The Baroness of this city was standing in front of Dex right now. The system notified our MC that the Baroness has already increased her interest and favorability towards him. Dex smiled as soon as he figured who this person was. The Baroness introduced herself to him, and then she invited Dex to have a cup of tea because of the amount of ores he sold to the miners. Our MC needed to decide if he would accept this offer. This was a Mikhail Barony mansion, and inside was Mikhail and Dex. They were having their tea session right now. Our MC praised the taste of the tea and he found out that this was one of the specialties of this city. After that, she got to the main subject of doing this meeting. She asked how many days did Dex take to mine all those ores. Dex answered truthfully and told her 3 days. This shocked the Baroness because this seemed to be impossible. She then found out that Dex was the only one who could do this and this was impossible for the other adventurers. This is what she thought because iron ores were really hard to mine. She then asked Dex if he could help her. Mikhail explained that their economy started to shake because of all the players coming inside their city. The system notified Dex about the special quest that appeared after hearing the request. This one will require him to mine around 100,000 iron ores. And so far, he already got 32,140. Dex smiled because finally, he got the special quest. He cleared the conditions of this quest first, and after that, he assured the Baroness that he could solve this problem for her. Later that night, our MC was still in front of his computer. He was studying and analyzing how he could solve the problem of the Baroness. He didn't think that Arcadia would really implement a real economic problem inside the game, but after some time, he already found a way around this quest. The main issue about this quest was that players think that mining for ores themselves was really a boring job, and Yi Young was planning to change their perspective by creating his own YouTube channel. His name was The Daily Life of a Destroyer. The next day, at the Seoljin Middle School, this kid asked his classmate if he will still be playing Arcadia today. This one with the blue jacket was Choi Hyun-taek, 15 years old. And he was already done with Arcadia. The game had already given him some traumas. His classmate found out that Hyun-taek was killed by the beginner killer on the first day he logged in. And then on the second day, he got killed by those overpowered slimes. And his misfortunes didn't stop there because after that, the beginner village got destroyed. He died multiple times just trying to escape that place. And once he managed to get to Mikhail Barony, he encountered another problem again. He was forced to become a merchant and learn more non-combat skills. This made his character useless because he can't even hunt a single monster all by himself. This one was really discouraged right now. But then his classmate told him something. Hyun-taek saw a video that was about mining inside Arcadia. This video already had 540,000 views. It was about making money inside the game. The video started from the creator's perspective. He was inside the mines. He then introduced this place and knew that a lot of people were already familiar with this place. These two continued watching and they found out about mining. The creator knew that all of his viewers would think that this was just menial labor, but then he showed the amount of gold he gained by doing this job. This shocked Hyun-taek because he didn't expect something like this. The creator then started explaining how the process works. He also gave some computation examples. He pointed out that in order to really earn money, they first need to increase their mining rank. And after this, the rare ores will start coming out and they could start getting rich. The creator even shared his mining rank and he told them that he mines at least 1 magic crystal a day. Hyun-taek was already hooked on this idea because no one had really paid attention to this job until this day. The video skipped the process of mining. It was then continued to the part where the creator sold all of his ores. He even promoted the good relationship that players could get with the NPCs. In just one day, he showed that he got 1 gold and 82 silver. This kid was really in trouble. We could see it by the sparkles on his eyes. He was already thinking of copying this strategy. This video was from a YouTube channel called Daily Life of a Destroyer and it made it as the most viral content that day. The name of the channel really fit its content because there were a bunch of lies in there. The creator, which was our MC, only managed to get those ores because of this cheat item he had been using. He purposely left out these details to deceive his viewers, and this move resulted in a lot of people gaining interest in mining. All the players inside the city were all rushing to buy pickaxes they could use on the mines. Suddenly, there were a lot of people lining up to mine iron ores. The Baroness was going crazy because of this development. She didn't expect all these people to rush inside the mines. This lady was now having a meeting with Dex. She asked him how he did this thing. Mikhail found out that Dex stirred the basic desire of humans, and our MC told her that it was all about money. People will come flocking into something as long as they will earn money from it. This concept made this NPC confused, but she really can't be bothered with the things she doesn't understand as long as her problem is solved. Dex told her that their plan was still not done yet. He then suggested that Mikhail should reduce the wages of the miners and give them a percentage of the amount of ores they were mining. This will motivate the ones who work really hard, and it will weed out the ones who were just slacking. This lady was starting to get the gist of this. She immediately agreed. Dex found out that the Baroness had zero idea about how the economy works. He will now use this to his advantage and teach her some things from the cruelty of the modern economy. Mikhail asked Dex about the prices of the iron ores because they were already selling at 20 bronze per piece right now. But Dex told her to just ignore that, and it confused her even more. The people who really need these iron ores will still buy them, and the artisans' earnings were not really affected. This is what they call price correction. The iron ores were really supposed to be at this price range to make them more valuable, and if some people still complain, they should just mine it themselves. This Baroness was starting to get corrupted by Dex's teachings. She then offered him to become her finance minister, and she promised that she will pay him a lot of money. This offer was immediately declined by Dex. He was still not done with his adventures. Dex had already done something for the Baroness, and now it's time to get his share. Mikhail then asked Dex what he really wanted in exchange for the help he had done. This was a perfect moment that our MC had been waiting for. He then showed her this piece of paper. Dex told her that inside that piece of paper was his business proposal. The Baroness checked the contents of this said proposal. In our MC's mind, there were limits on how much an individual could earn on their own. He then started thinking of ways to break these limits, and he found this solution. It was to rule above others. This lady was about to learn something about the economy again. Dex already knew that she would be interested in this thing. He revealed that he wants 10% of all the profits in this business model, and then he will let her use this in her city. 1,000 years ago in the world of Arcadia was a war between angels and demons, which was known as the Holy Demonic Great War. Both sides were represented by these two powerful beings. They fought an intense battle. This lasted for a while until one of them was greatly injured. The one who was representing the demon race was our MC's familiar, Satan, and his opponent was an angel that was wielding a holy spear called Muspelheim. This angel was the representative of heaven, and she was Archangel Michael. Satan was a great disadvantage because of the weapon that she used in their battle, and he was utterly defeated. Turns out, Satan was having a nightmare about his past. He now thought that he remembered that scene because it happened in this area. This revealed a few more memories to him. Meanwhile, he was still on Dex's shoulders while his master was busy roaming around this street. All of the people around were now interested in mining. Satan then asked his master about the business proposal that he gave to the Baroness. Our MC shared a verse to Satan, and it goes like this: "You may enter as you please, but you can't go out as you please." He said this statement while having this creepy face with him. He then explained the concept behind it. Mining was really not an easy task. A normal player could accumulate around 10 iron ores in 1 hour. The occasional rare metals that he got was because of the Den Destroyer that he got from his familiar. That meant that this job was really not profitable. But in his case, he could do something about this feature of the game. This also piqued Satan's interest. Dex will not be mining anymore, but instead, they will be selling entrance tickets. He will use the Baroness to sell the right to enter the mines. Those who don't have any money can pay this fee later on, but it will be then too late for them to back out when they found out that this job was really not worth it. Satan then asked his master the price of the tickets he will be selling, and since this was really a one-time thing, Dex started to think about this. He then revealed that these tickets will be worth 1 gold each, and Satan can't believe what he heard. Even if he had no idea about the currency of the humans, he knew that 1 gold each was far too expensive. But Dex was confident that players would fall for this scam because of the information he leaked. This was the easiest way he could earn a lot of money. Satan, the king of demons, was speechless upon hearing his master's evil plan. He thought that Dex was really a demon because he really didn't care if he would get all of the players' money. This situation made this familiar idolize his master again. They were really a perfect fit. Satan then addressed his master. He told Dex that they needed to go somewhere important. He also promised that his master would not lose anything if he would follow him. Dex granted his wish and followed his lead. These two arrived in front of this huge door which was inside the mines. Satan revealed that this was the reason he was gone while his master was busy mining ores. He followed his instincts right from the moment they entered this city. He finally found out why this place was too familiar to him. Dex inspected the door closely and thought that this had been abandoned for a very long time. But something was off because there's no rust or anything on it. Dex thought that maybe there was some kind of magic casted on this door. Satan asked his master to try and open the door, and our MC followed his suggestion. He placed his hands on the door. The system then notified him about the powerful seal that was casted on it, and Dex didn't meet the requirements to dispel the seal. The system then suggested that Dex should report this to the Baroness. He also gained a new skill called relic excavation because of this discovery. Dex told Satan about the seal, and it made this guy furious. That was the main reason why he brought his master in here. Our MC still didn't understand what Satan meant. He told his familiar that he doesn't have the powers to open this door. This guy then tried giving him more clues because his master really had no idea. He can't believe that his master was too slow to pick this up. Satan tried again and asked Dex about how much he knows about his powers. Dex finally got this thing right and thought about plausibility. This power was outside the range of providence. It allows the user to do everything that he wants. Plausibility was the power closest to being the creator of the world himself. After all these explanations, Satan was now expecting that Dex understood his power, but this guy answered him no. His familiar then simplified it more for him. He told Dex that he could do everything or anything that he wanted. This went on for 10 more minutes, and Dex found out that plausibility was the power Satan and other transcendental beings needed in order to move around. Satan added that usually, this power could just accumulate over time, but it was too little. The amount that Dex had given to Satan would require him 500 years just to have those. This guy then figured out why his familiar wanted these points so badly. He also got the fact that he could open this door just by using plausibility. Dex asked Satan how he should approach this because he knew it still has a seal on it. This guy then told him that he just needs to touch the door and think about opening it. After all, Dex needs to learn to think like he was an absolute being. All he needed to have was a will to do it. Dex tried opening this door again, and this time a magic circle already appeared. The door seal was already reacting to the plausibility powers of our MC. The system asked him if he wants to open this door, but this will cost him 15,000 points. Dex knew that this amount was just too much, but since he had no other things to spend it with, he chose to open the effing door. This immediately consumed his points, but the seal really got broken. Dex had discovered a place called an unknown heavenly altar. Satan revealed that behind this door was the den of the angels. This place was also known as the High Heaven Stairway. More about this holy demonic great war. This fierce and brutal war set Arcadia as its stage. Thousands of lives were affected, and the whole continent was dyed with death. The weaker realms were only able to survive because of the existence of the World Tree. And even after 1,000 years after this war ended, it had remained scarce throughout Arcadia. The people who survived that war left a warning for the future generations, hoping it doesn't repeat itself. The main database of Arcadia got an alert notification about the high stairs of heaven. This incident just triggered a mythical grade quest and made the whole operations team in a state of emergency. This quest was not supposed to be discovered for a long period of time, but now one player had broken the seal. Kang Ti-hoon conducted a meeting right away regarding this one. All of the people present inside the meeting have these facial expressions on them. They still didn't recover from the stress they got last time. These employees thought that they could relax for a bit, but this was not clearly the case. Ti-hoon continued briefing them about the situation that happened inside Mount Fine. The team checked and looked at how severe this emergency was. The director found out just now that this place was once the territory of the angels. All the people inside their branch had no idea about this information, but they managed to find some storyline regarding this. Mount Fine was once called the entrance of the high heavens, and this was the place where the first angels descended from heaven. The oars around the mountain were supposed to be the barriers to hide the entrance from the outside world. They coined this place as the Hidden Holy Land. The director thought that Arcadia has really a lot of unknown storylines, and this made him more interested. The whole team had looked upon all the corrupted quests that were affected with this development, and they think that they may have found something. Kang Ti-hoon was still hesitant to reveal this information, but it was already too late. He told everyone that this discovered quest could lead into the second holy demonic Great War. Hearing this made the director think about all the headaches he was about to experience. Meanwhile, the culprit of this problem was none other than our MC. He was still quite amazed because of this discovery. Satan was also thrilled because he could finally have his revenge against the angels. He suggested to his master that they should now go and plunder everything inside this place. Dex walked towards the thing that was in the center of this room. He wondered if the treasure was really inside this thing. Our MC tried to touch it, but these notifications popped out again. This one requires someone who could understand ancient language. A holy energy also entered Dex's body, and it increased his HP and MP recovery rate. This also gave him a new quest called Hidden Ruins. Dex started to think that maybe whatever item that was inside this thing was extremely valuable. And while he was still thinking of ways to approach this, Satan was already bugging him. Before opening the door, the system suggested Dex go and report this to the Baroness. But since he already opened the door, he can't do that thing now. He thought that this lady who didn't even know a single thing about how the economy works will not be able to help him at all. Dex also knew that since he opened this door using his plausibility, whatever he was doing right now might already be a crime. He wouldn't want anyone to know about this place. He then smiled as he decided to open the treasure box. This made this Demon King too happy. But more than 10 minutes later, these two were still struggling on opening this thing. It was really closed. These two were already catching their breaths because their strength was all drained down. Satan thought that if only he had more strength in him, this thing would be a piece of cake. He never thought that he would have such trouble opening a mere rock that didn't have any barrier or seal on it, and this statement from his familiar gave Dex an idea. He then confirmed if there was really a treasure inside this thing, and since he got the answer he wanted, our MC prepared himself. This guy just equipped his Den Destroyer again. Satan was now confused about his master's actions, but since they didn't have any clue how to open this treasure box, Dex opted to just destroy it. He started drilling into the treasure box and it was effective. Cracks appeared. Satan thought that this was real proof that humans were way worse than demons. And after a while, the treasure box was opened. It gave Dex an extraordinary achievement. The beings from the heavens were also shocked by what Dex had done, and it made his affinity towards them hit the rock bottom. This guy was now forbidden to show his face towards the holy beings. He also gained a title called Relic Destroyer. But it all seemed to be worth it by the looks of our MC. But Dex was confused as he saw the thing that was inside the treasure box. It was just an effing skeleton. Our MC was starting to feel bad because the one that he destroyed was not a treasure box but a sarcophagus. He blamed this thing on Satan, but since it was already done, Dex thought that they should still take something from it. Satan told his master that they should just take the necklace of the skeleton. This one had this mysterious glow around it. Satan already knew that this necklace was a piece of holy object that angels were preparing for the future. And he thought that if his evil master could get that, the holy beings' plans would be destroyed. This was also his way to get back from the angels that defeated him. Dex, Our MC had obtained another important relic called Glorious Heaven's Medallion. As soon as he got it, holy energy started reacting to him. The force was too powerful and Satan was being blown away. Meanwhile, Dex could feel the surge of energy entering his body. Something was happening to him. The special ability of the medallion had been used towards Dex. He got another hidden class called Holy Prophet. This new job that was bestowed to our MC was contradicting his current class, Bard of Anarchy. The system sent a series of warnings and it temporarily disabled the effects of the medallion. Dex managed to find 2 medallions that gave him different hidden classes. Satan almost died from the amount of holy energy that thing released. He then asked his master about what happened, but Dex also didn't have any idea. This item was really mysterious. Even its description was missing. But the game was already conducting an investigation regarding this fatal error. Dex thought that he just made things too complicated and hoped that the game would do something about this. Meanwhile, at the vicinity of Mikhail Barry mining site 2, this kid was stopped by the guards and he got confused. The guard then told him about the new regulations that were enforced towards the mines. Everyone should have a pass first before they could mine. Hyuntak, the most unlucky player in Arcadia, didn't know about this. He recalled the video that he saw and thought that maybe the situations have changed. The guard revealed that players needed to pay first before they could enter this area. This kid unwillingly asked the price of this said pass, and this was his expression as soon as he heard that it costs 30 gold. Since this pass was already good for the next 30 days, it would mean that it's already 1 gold per day. 1 gold was already equivalent to 100,000 won or $77. And there's no way a middle schooler could afford this fee. His dream of becoming rich by mining was now crushed. But this guard gave him another option, and since this kid was already desperate to earn money, he would easily fall for this trap. The guard started introducing the program that was designed for the players who can't afford the pass. He told Hyuntek that it was more like buy now, pay later. The guard also pointed to that house so he could learn more information about the said program. The consultation office was also being managed by this lady right here. This was more than enough to attract this kid right here. He suddenly felt a little bad because they got another one. This kid was about to become a mining thrall. This mining site had almost no manpower not too long ago, but right now, it was almost already full. These were the players that fell into Dex's trap. Even outside the mining site, their shouts could be heard. This lady was really impressed by this new system that was placed. She can't believe that someone would fall into this plan. But she knew that this was not the Baroness' idea because it was just too wicked. All that she knew was this person who suggested this plan was too vicious. Even without doing anything, Dex cleared the quest about the 100,000 iron ores he needed to mine. This was because of all the contributions that the players made. He then told Satan that they should now finish things up right here. This confused this familiar because his master even did some stretches. Satan still has zero idea, but he already felt an ominous aura about this. Dex then told him about the things that they have done, and all of these things could get our MC punished. And in order to hide all of these crimes, no one should know about the crime scene. Satan was still not following his master's idea. But then Dex equipped the Den Destroyer again. He told Satan that he just needs to eradicate all of the evidence. This one was already sweating because of Dex's plans. Our MC smiled and told him that he would demolish this place. And then he started doing it. This 1,000-year-old relic site started to crumble. He even had this glowing around him after destroying the place. Satan thought that he should start taking notes from the humans because he still has a lot of things to learn from them. Back to the Mikhail mansion. This Baroness was so happy because she had been waiting for our MC to visit. She reported that Dex's plan worked out and now they were overflowing with miners. She then thanked our MC. She was also drooling because a lot of players fell to their trap contract as soon as they heard the price of the tickets. Right now, the number of players that signed up was about 9,693. They were already taking 30% transaction fees, and on top of that, all the ores needed to be sold to her. Mikhail was really captivated by our MC's way of doing things. Dex was also starting to think that this lady was getting crazier every time they met. He's now scared about the players that were trapped working under her. Dex really broke this one. He also reminded the Baroness about the reward he was about to receive. Mikhail quickly moved and told Dex that she already prepared this for him. This was a 10% profit from the business they ventured. Our MC gained 120 gold and 23 silver without doing anything. Mikhail also approached our MC and bluntly asked if he could work with her here. She will treat Dex equally and give him all the power he wants. This proposal was real because a notification from the system appeared. Dex was already thinking about it because this offer was too tempting. Arcadia was a game that had a vast world, and the game was created only because of this one person. This guy was Jack, and he's the creator of Arcadia. Right now, he's in contact with the administrator of the game, Alice. He greeted this AI because it has been a while since they have talked. Alice reported that there had been a lot of fatal inconsistency that happened inside the game, and there's this specific incident that she can't solve. She would like him to check this and decide about the solution. As soon as Jack was able to see what happened, he found it interesting. He saw the hidden class, Bard of Anarchy. This was a feature inside the game that even he was not informed about. He thought that a real disruptor had appeared inside his world. It was all because of this mysterious guy. And now, that same disruptor has acquired the Heavens Medallion as well. This was an item only intended for the main character of the Holy Demonic Great War. This player has acquired both of the most important relics of the two races. Jack was pleased to see this kind of thing happen inside his world. But Alice was now asking this guy what they should do because it was impossible to give Dex the class of Holy Prophet right now. The creator told Alice that the job advancement was not that really important. All they needed to do was to give Dex his reward. Jack informed Alice that they will just change the traits of the item that Dex got. Since Dex has already disrupted his Arcadia, his role as the creator was to balance this thing out. He told Alice that they will now use Michael for this task. Back to our MC, he was still being asked by the system about his decision with the Baroness proposal, but then he rejected this one. Mikhail was shocked because she thought that her terms were already enough. Dex explained to her that he was an adventurer and he still wants to continue and travel around the continent. He will think about this again when he is done traveling. In the back of his mind, he felt like he needed to not be involved with her anymore. This Baroness was really happy hearing this news. She also gave Dex this letter. This was a recommendation letter that she personally wrote. This will give Dex protection anywhere within this kingdom. Dex received the recommendation letter as his quest reward. But he wondered why he would need some protection. Mikhail then revealed that the current situation of this kingdom was a mess. And Dex would need a letter like this if he really intends to travel across the continent. Our MC was not aware of this situation and he thought that maybe this information can only be obtained through talking to NPCs. She explained that the current king has gotten too old and the prince will need to ascend to the throne. But the problem was this prince was too young, and because of that, people who had been wanting for more power were leaning to use this prince for their own good. But the worst among these men was this duke named Burin. He stepped forward as the leader of the noble faction and he had been using the king as his puppet. This man was also initiating a conflict against neighboring countries so that he could take immense war funds. Mikhail was sure that this will surely make this country suffer too much if that happens. Dex thought that this matter was too troublesome and he wanted to stay out of it. This Baroness added that the recommendation letter that she had given to Dex was about how he resolved the problems in her city. And if he will give this to the Imperial Palace, they will surely treat Dex with high regards. Dex now found out that the Baroness wanted him to help with this problem. This gave our MC an official quest regarding the Maroon Kingdom. It requires him to go and contribute something to the kingdom and try to find the protagonist that could change the fate of this place. He knew that he had no other choice but to do this quest because there were no options given to him. Even if he was furious, Dex told the Baroness that he will do his best. This made this lady idolize Dex even more. After that meeting, Dex and Mikhail said their goodbyes to each other. This waifu promised to our MC that she will just be waiting for him here and he could come anytime. Dex waved goodbye. He knew that he really made a troublesome connection with the Baroness. This lady was now sure with her feelings. She knew that this adventure was a key to changing the course of this world. This thought was really reasonable because Dex had already made a lot of things that changed the world of Arcadia. And these changes have affected not only the people inside the game but also the ones outside. The fates of the people or even monsters around him changed and left a great impact, even to these ones who were unlucky. This is Arcadia, a world that was made for the players. And this guy was the only one who was playing the game closest to the original intent of the game. The amount of trolling he had done in this game will not even matter for what he was about to do next time. Satan was now asking his master if he was really sure that he would involve himself in the world of politics. But since it had already gone this way, Dex had no other choice. He would still make sure to do these things to earn more plausibility. And then, a bright ray of light appeared. The system notified our MC that they have already resolved the problem. The Glorious Heavens medallion has already been adjusted. This item then started emitting this bright holy light, and it almost blinded our MC. Dex and Satan could only stare as this thing was acting up. Something was coming out from this medallion. Our MC couldn't believe what he was seeing. Even Satan was startled. The medallion gave Dex a holy attribute and it notified him that he will now be protected by a guardian angel. The item was also now permanently equipped to him and it was impossible to disable it. An angel really appeared in front of Dex. He was stunned because of this incident. This angel was the star of glory and holiness, Archangel Michael. And this was her current form. It's angels and demons. These races were like cats and dogs. One can't really coexist with the other because they have been sworn enemies. And right now, both the leaders of these races were in front of Dex. They were like small kids fighting. Michael confronted Satan. She was already wondering what this guy was doing, and as soon as she woke up, she found out that Satan was already destroying their holy base in Mount Fine. Satan answered back. He knew that Michael would have done the same thing if ever she was the one who woke up first. These two were not really stopping and kept on bickering. Dex had this expression on his face. He told these two to stop. He was now standing in between just to keep them from each other. Satan said that if only he had his original body, he would have defeated Michael right now. But this angel was not backing down. She reminded Satan how the last war ended. Satan brought up that she only won because she used a divine weapon against him. This caught our MC's attention. But overall, they were really like kids. Dex also remembered the information he heard from the library. The way they described these two were spot on. He then turned his head towards Michael as this angel called him. She asked if Dex was the human who had really made a contract with Satan. And our MC answered yes. He explained that the contract was forced and he really had no choice. Satan whined because Dex made it sound like he really didn't want this setup. Michael then told him that Dex possesses a power called plausibility, and this one could really be very dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. She specifically mentioned and called Satan as downright bad, and this made him furious. And since there's really nothing they could do about it because the contract was done, Michael reminded Dex to be careful from the flattery of this demon. She also said that she will be Dex's guardian angel and she will lead him to the right path. Dex felt the sincerity from her words, but Satan just started laughing. He told Michael that her dream was impossible. This angel asked him why he can't stop smirking. Satan told her that as the king of the demons, he was sure about one thing. He revealed that Dex was the closest to being a demon than any human he ever met. He added that this man might even be worse than any demon. Dex was shocked about this, but then he realized that Satan was not really wrong. The hidden class that he got was a Bard of Anarchy, and this class requires him to change and disrupt the whole world of Arcadia. All of his actions also fell into the bad side, but Michael stood with her words because she didn't think of it that way. She told Dex that their creator always made sure that there's some kindness in someone's heart, and her role was to make the kindness appear again. This angel promised that she will do her best to bring out the best from Dex. She also told Dex that he could just call her by her nickname, which was L. Satan just stared at them. He then told Elle that he could turn a blind eye on her traveling with them, but he can't let her have some plausibility. She then smiled and told Satan that he was really shameless to just monopolize this power called plausibility. Elle advised that he should forget about this the moment she appeared. And again, these two started their fight. They really can't coexist. Dex was just dumbfounded. He thought that right now, he had two noisy familiars with him instead of one. He stopped them from fighting by calling Elle. Our MC thought that it really doesn't matter if his familiars were demons or angels. The world was not turning around because of them, and this one was capitalistic. He smiled and revealed to Elle that he really didn't give Satan any plausibility for free. This guy just asked the most powerful angel what she could offer in exchange for this power. Elle didn't expect to hear this one from her master. She adjusted as soon as she found out that his master had this kind of give-and-take mentality, because this was common knowledge even in the heavenly realm. She told Dex that she could offer some heavenly weapons, but Dex asked her if she had some kind of skills that he could use. Elle didn't really know what skill meant. This was the first time Dex found out that game terms were not really known to these familiars. He then explained that he was pretty weak in terms of combat, so he was looking for something that could allow him to fight stronger opponents. This angel processed and analyzed what Dex really needed. Our MC really needed some skills that could help him in terms of combat because of this hidden class. It eliminated the concept of leveling up. Even though plausibility was a powerful stat, he wouldn't really want to rely on it every time. So far, all the skills that he earned were about mining and diving, but these were all non-combat skills. Elle's expression brightened up as soon as she remembered that she could offer something incredible for her master. A contract was then established between this angel and Dex. The system notified our MC that he gained a skill called Divine Descent. Dex could use this skill, but still in exchange with plausibility. Elle told him that the contract was done, and now Dex could use heavenly powers as much as he wanted to. Dex doesn't know what to feel because this kind of power still requires plausibility. But this was great instead of nothing. He then smiled as he tried this new skill he earned. Our MC used Divine Descent, and a huge bright aura surrounded him. Satan was already being blown away just from the pressure of this skill, and it was felt throughout the forest. The monsters around the area also saw this bright light, and it seemed that it caught their attention. Elle explained how this skill works. Dex could now temporarily borrow the power of ancient heroes who possess faithfulness in their souls. The first hero was the Knight of Honor, Farin, the Great Wizard of Truth, Merlin, the Divine Archer of the Legends, Parcel, and the Great Thief of Faithfulness, Murphin. Our MC was really satisfied with this skill. He knew that this would be pretty useful, and while he was still checking out his new skill, he heard a sound near him. It was from these gigantic orcs, and they were able to use the human language. They told Dex to hand over all the valuable items that he got, but instead of being intimidated, Dex smiled because he could now test his powers on these monsters. Meanwhile, at Mount Fine, a lot of adventurers were still stuck mining ores in this site. These were the ones who believed that they could get rich in games just by following one video on YouTube. And as they spent more time inside this mining site, they found out that their dream was now impossible. They have accepted their fate, that they were just deceived. Including Humtech, who had been the super unlucky one in Arcadia. His friends were all now enjoying hunting monsters around the city. Even if he wanted to ask for help, he was too embarrassed to tell his situation to them. Right now, he really doesn't care about the money anymore. He just wanted to get out of this mess. He even thought of just running away from this nightmare. The amount of work he had done was now piling up, and it clouded his decision-making skill. But this was cut off when he heard someone shouting. This guy was being escorted by the guards back to the mining site. He tried escaping this place. The other explorers then explained to Humtech that running away was meaningless. Even if they managed to get out of this place, the Baroness will issue an order and make them deserter. Anyone who was branded by this title will be treated as a criminal in all villages and cities. This one suggested that they should just go and work to pay the debt that they had instead of not being able to play the game peacefully. These statements from other explorers made Humtech forget about his plan on running away. Even if he was already crying, he continued on using his pickaxe to mine more iron ores. The system then notified him that his mining skill had leveled up and his mining speed increased a little bit. The most unlucky player also gained a title called Persistent Miner. A figure named Longest Burning Flame also showed some interest in him. This guy just gained something and was now watching him closely. Humetek was naturally confused about this notification because this was the first time he had seen this information. But before he could check more of it, the guards told him to get back to his work. Back to our MC, he had used his new skill called Divine Descent. The hero that he chose was this Knight of Honor, Farhan. This one was a holy warrior that always brought victory throughout his life. The sight of his sword was already enough to send fear to all the demons present around him. His shield also saved countless lives. Any battle that he had participated in was already considered a victory. With this kind of achievement, he received a title called Living Honor. As for the demons, they called him by a different name because of his powerful strength. No one could even stand against this hero. He was called the Devil Breaker, Farhan. And right now, this hero's power has been harnessed by our MC. The soul of this mighty soldier has descended and been absorbed by Dex. He can now use all the skills that this hero had. Satan immediately recognized the sword and the shield that came out from Dex. Our MC was more than satisfied because this skill was like what its name was. The power really descended into his body. This was more incredible than he thought. Satan was now protesting because out of all heroes, Farhan was the one that descended. He told Dex that all the demons knew Farhan's name. He revealed that this guy was a madman because he would defeat all the demons, even those who were not doing anything to him. This made Dex laugh because the hero that all the humans hailed for was a criminal in all the demons' perspective. And since he was done preparing, he addressed the orcs back. He had made these ones wait for too long and it was now the time to fight them. The orcs knew that their opponent just got a major power-up because Dex's strength was nearly non-existent a while ago. Our MC noticed this because unlike other monsters, these ones were not attacking him immediately. He thought that they had a little intelligence with them. Dex met these monsters because he took a different route after leaving Mikhail Barony. He used a path deep in the forest. Explorers were not using this route because there were a lot of monsters lurking around, not to mention the field boss that was present in this area. Dex thought that a level 25 field boss monster was pretty strong. Then this monster started its attack and rushed towards our MC, but its attack was just blocked by Dex. A skill called Unwavering Will was activated. He was satisfied as he learned how to use this skill. After that attack, Dex was now ready to counter. The holy shield that protected him has now gone to combat mode. Multiple skills were simultaneously activated. The Conviction of Justice in Burning Dawn's Flame. These ones created an effing huge light sword above our MC. This sight was enough to make these monsters feel fear, but it was already too late. Dex was excited how this attack would turn out. A huge ray of light was then seen throughout the forest. This was able to cut all the trees that were on its way. This was clearly a light Getsuga Tenshu. After that attack, the Divine Descent skill was deactivated. The system quickly computed the amount of plausibility used and it got the number 352. The soul of the Holy Knight left the body of our MC. This guy was kinda disappointed because these ones died with just a single strike. Meanwhile, Elle was too amazed by what she just witnessed. This angel didn't expect that a human could use such powerful skill and even take it to the next level. She was also astonished. Elle found out the reason why her creator sent her towards this explorer. It was to witness the amazing things that this explorer could do. The mere existence of this guy right here could change the flow of this world. Archangel Michael was really glad that she had seen this thing in her own eyes. While his familiar was becoming more intriguing to him, Dex was disappointed because he didn't get a chance to fight properly. Later that night, Satan and Elle were now sleeping on the ground. Meanwhile, our MC was still awake. This guy was still looking at his newest skill, Divine Descent. Dex was also glad that he used this skill earlier than expected because he was able to check all the pros and cons. As for the pros, It eliminates the level and power gap that he could encounter when facing stronger opponents. Before he got this skill, the only option he had was to purchase a weapon using plausibility from Satan. But this one costs a lot of points, and since he will have to battle different opponents eventually, purchasing one type of weapon would put him on a disadvantage. Our MC was glad that he had thought this through first. Divine Descent has also had its own cons. Just by using it, Dex had already consumed 352 points, and all it took was around 3 minutes of time to defeat 3 orcs. Dex was wondering how much it would cost him if he fought a much stronger opponent. This was the only disadvantage of this skill. This guy was now really torn about whether to use this skill or not. But as for the bottom line, he was thrilled using it. He was then startled as he heard someone's voice. It was from Elle. She said that she's just a light sleeper unlike someone else, and she was talking about Satan. This archangel started talking about the concern of Dex from using his skill because it consumed a lot of plausibility. Elle then explained that the hero that Dex summoned was foreign, and this one was a powerful being that was feared by all demons. And to think that our MC could use his powers was already a great deal. She added that this amount of points were just fair. Dex listened to her and thought that this angel had her way towards using her words. Eventually, our MC was convinced that this skill was not really a burden because it gave him additional options when battling someone. He just needed to use this wisely. Elle's mission was successful and she was glad that Dex was convinced. The Maroon Kingdom was an important place because this was the base for the Korean server in Arcadia, and the current internal affairs of this place was not in a good condition. But even with this struggle for power and influence, this place was known to be strong and well. The main advantage of the Maroon Kingdom was that it has a strategic location. It was placed right in the middle of its neighboring countries, making it act as the middleman if some countries would want to import or export their products. This also led people wanting to build their merchantry business here. And one of the biggest merchant associations present was the GM Great Merchant Association. An NPC outside the building was now complaining because he came here to meet the merchantry business but he was nowhere to be found. But then someone approached him and said some apologies. This old man was John Smith and he was the branch manager of the GM Great Merchant Association. He will be the one who's gonna assist this NPC for the time being. He explained that their leader could not meet this merchant NPC because he had an important meeting to attend to. In the main room of this building, this white-haired man was talking about the inevitable war that was coming into their kingdom, and he was talking with the guild master of the GM Merchant Association. This man was Duke Burhan and he was the leader of all the nobles in the Maroon Kingdom. And this other guy was Jeju, the merchantry master of the guild. He was an adventurer like Dex. He thought that Duke Burhan has a sharp tongue for a villain NPC. He also knew that the guy in front of him could mobilize his own troops and seize the throne of this kingdom easily. Duke Burhan was considered a dangerous man because of his power and influence. But right now, this man who could control the whole kingdom came to their guild to ask for their help. Choi didn't expect that he'll meet this NPC this early, but he can't let this opportunity be wasted. A little background about Choi Jeju. This one was the youngest son of the GM Group's chairman. His father had a hard time raising him because of Jeju's attitude. He had tried a lot of job positions in their own company, but he failed to do his job all the time. He was on the verge of being disowned because of all the failures he had cost their company. As of today, the merchantry that has established a stronghold in the Maroon Kingdom was the GM Great Merchant Association, and this was led by Choi Jeju. He used his father's money to establish his own company inside the game. The main purpose of this guild was to earn from all the players that were playing the game. Choi Jeju intends to take a lot of money. At this table right now was both representative of both power and authority. One man was from reality, while the other one was from virtual reality. Two different worlds have crossed their paths again. Duke Burhan made his move. He told Jeju that he personally wanted to meet the man who led the merchant association that was focused on all of the adventurers. He praised Jeju because his business had gained a lot of growth and influence in such a short period of time. And because of this, Duke Burhan wanted to make them his ally. He wanted to ask the GM group to buy all the grains they could that were available in the market, and in return, Duke Burhan would pay them a huge price. This will also make them official partners. If all things goes according to Duke Burhan's plan, he could give Jeju's Merchant Association the authority to deal with the Maroon Kingdom's logistic supplies. This offer was really a one-of-a-kind deal in Jeju's perspective. And since he knew that Duke Burhan could really take over the kingdom, he immediately agreed. After that, this old man left the room, and Jeju was left with this grin on his face because he knew that this was his chance. He addressed this old man and told him that this was really a huge opportunity for them. Jeju stood up and asked this old man that they should contact his father immediately so they could ask for more investment. But John Smith didn't allow it. Jeju was confused and shocked by this answer. Turns out, this man had already invested around 8 billion won or $6.2 million into the game, and now he was asking for more. In his perspective, this amount of money would mean nothing compared to all the profit their company could gain with this partnership. All he needed to do was to help Duke Burhan with his plans and supply the Maroon Kingdom with all the goods they needed. This will ensure that this white-haired man will take over the throne. And when all of that happens, the economy of the whole continent will fall towards the GM Great Merchant Association. At the same time, this man named Count Brocken was talking with someone, and this someone was none other than our MC, Dex. Turns out, Dex had successfully arrived at the place where Mikhail recommended him to go. He then quickly handed the letter to this man. Count Brocken was impressed because an adventurer got something like this from the Baroness herself. Dex started to explain and was expecting to receive some kind of protection just like what the Baroness told him. But before he could finish his sentence, the letter was torn into two. This shocked Dex because this man didn't even bother to read it first. Count Brocken then bluntly asked our MC the reason why he was really sent here in the first place. The Count kept a close gaze towards Dex, but instead of being intimidated, Dex smiled because of the direct approach of this NPC. He then trolled him and answered that he really didn't know the reason why he was sent here. He also didn't care because these matters were usually handled by people with high statuses. This sarcastic statement immediately created a pressure around these two. But then Count Brocken cut the silence and started laughing. He told Dex that he liked his attitude. All this time, this man already knew why the Baroness sent Dex to him. It was to help them with the current conflict that would cost the war between the Maroon Kingdom and Parkle Kingdom. Our MC humbly denied the praises and told the Count that he really had no idea what he could do to help them with this problem. Count Brocken was then more impressed because Dex was not even surprised about the war possibility that was revealed to him just now. This meant that he already heard this information from Mikhail and she trusted this man so much. The Count then asked Dex if he had some ideas how they should approach this problem. It was revealed that this problem arose because the prince was not in the right age to make good judgment for the kingdom and all of the nobles were in cahoots with Duke Burhan. With this information, Dex started to think. He then told Count Brocken that they have an easy solution and a tough one. As for Dex, the easier one was about the main culprit, Duke Burhan. Usually, when the head of an organization was gone, the organization would also collapse. This man knew what Dex meant and it was to assassinate the Duke. Our MC happily confirmed this idea. This made Count Brocken laugh harder because he found Dex as an interesting adventurer. Dex was now being overwhelmed because the voice of this man was booming. As he calmed down, Count Brocken revealed that he had already thought about that solution. But it was not as easy as Dex thought. It was because Duke Burhan has a lot of high-level adventurers and guards around him that protects him 24 hours a day. He told Dex if there's someone who's crazy enough to still do the job even with this kind of situation, he would like to meet him. Our MC then pointed his fingers to himself and told the Count that he will be the one who'll do the assassination. This created an awkward vibe around them. The Count then told Dex that he thought that Dex wouldn't be able to even scratch the Duke's clothes. In his perspective, Dex was only a level 1 adventurer and there's no way he could do such an impossible task. But our MC smiled and asked him again if Count Brocken really thinks that he can't do it. This time, Count Brocken felt an immense pressure. He then praised Dex and told him that he had a lot of confidence. This man stood up and asked Dex to follow him. These two went to the training grounds. Count Brocken told Dex that he needs to prove himself first. This one really trusts the Baroness' decision, but he needed to know something first. Dex will now be tested if he was really fit for doing this mission. Count Brocken started releasing his aura. This man has the title of being the shield of the kingdom. He was also a sword master himself. He hoped that Dex would not disappoint him, and this scene made our MC thrilled. He used his divine descent skill. This time, he summoned the soul of the wandering knight, Cophilus. A bright green light then started surrounding Dex's body. Count Brocken felt the difference between the aura that was coming from Dex a while ago. Right before this green light appeared, he thought that Dex didn't have any experience from using swords, but this one felt like he was about to face a master in swords dance. The system then confirmed that the soul of Cophilus had descended upon Dex's body. Our MC then told Count Brocken that this fight would only last 5 minutes. In the back of his mind, he needed to finish this quickly because this consumes a lot of plausibility. But the way this man heard this was different. Dex started his move and activated several skills immediately. He was too fast for normal eyes to follow. In a blink of an eye, he was already in front of Count Brocken. Luckily, this man was able to block the attack, but he thought that Dex's sword was too heavy. Dex was already impressed because he intended to finish this with just one attack, but the level of the sword master was really high. He then created some distance between them. Count Brocken knew that Dex was not a normal adventurer, and our MC was glad that this NPC recognized this fact. He then asked the old man if he would like to continue this sparring with him since his prowess was already established. Count Brocken smiled because he can't let this situation as it is. He needed to show Dex what he was capable of. This sword master then used a skill called Formless Aura Blade, and a sudden surge of power started coming out from his body. The Count revealed that he also took pride with his own skills and he intends to show it to Dex. Our MC was now shocked because this situation had escalated to this one real quick. This old man released his attack and now wondering how Dex would handle this situation. A red deadly slash was now coming towards our MC. He didn't have much time to react to it. A huge explosion appeared right when the Count's attack landed. He kept his gaze towards Dex's position, but then he was startled as he saw something. Our MC was able to block his attack, and on top of that, he also used the same skill that Count Brocken used, the formless word technique. He also knew that the level between their techniques were quite far. Dex's formless sword was more powerful. This kind of skill could also be used by the ones who reached the title Sword Master. The system also notified Dex that the skill he used was for the adventurers who were already level 150 and above. This resulted in more plausibility points being consumed. Dex didn't expect this kind of situation and asked Elle how much plausibility she had already consumed. Meanwhile, this old man stood his ground and continued to just observe Dex. Our MC then addressed him and it startled Count Brocken. Dex told him that he really needs to end this sparring right away. After that statement, Dex teleported in front of this old man. He also charged up an attack that was intended to finish this fight. Count Brocken was able to block this attack, but it was just too powerful. He was being pushed back. This old man also felt like he wouldn't be able to live if he still continued to block this attack. And as soon as he showed a sign of weakness, Dex grabbed the opportunity. A clean attack landed onto Count Brocken. This was enough to make him lose the grip of his sword. The Count was defeated, and Dex immediately deactivated the Divine Descent skill. This man was thankful because he managed to survive that attack. The system then notified Dex that he had consumed a whopping 2,812 plausibility points. He also received a new title called Fighter of Miracles because he defeated someone who was way beyond his level. This permanently gave his strength stat additional 10 points. But instead of being happy about it, Dex was shocked by the amount of points the skill deducted. Elle appeared and explained that Dex used more power this time, that's why more points were consumed. She also didn't warn Dex about it because it looked like he enjoyed the battle too much. She was also fascinated because her master was able to harness the power of heavens efficiently. If other players tried this, they wouldn't be able to bring out the full power of this skill. L looked around the battlefield and asked Dex if he had already had some experience using swords before. Our MC remembered the times he spent on the other games and told L that he became proficient using this weapon from another place. Meanwhile, Count Brocken was left standing there. He can't believe that a sword master of the Maroon Kingdom was overwhelmed by a low-leveled adventurer. He didn't even manage to see the path of Dex's sword. He thought that Dex was a person who kept himself unknown even after attaining such great strengths. This old man also kneeled in front of Dex and asked what his sword pursues. Our MC thought about it and said that it was the wind. This answer gave this count a realization. He suddenly envisioned the power of the wind. This element was faster than anyone and it was freer and sharper than anything else. Count Brocken was now thinking that he should set his mind on attaining this level of power. This old man stood up and started swinging his sword. Satan and Dex stared at him and felt like it was weird because he suddenly started doing some training. After a few moments, the Count bowed his head towards Dex and apologized for the rudeness he had done a while ago. Dex told him that was nothing. The Count then continued talking and asked if Dex was really sure about doing the assassination himself. Our MC told him that this was the easiest way to solve this problem. And besides, Duke Burhan was on the side of evil. The only problem that Brocken wonders about was the chaos that this move would create throughout the kingdom. This will surely get all of the attention of the people. But Dex just asked this man if he knows about the concept of the Gordian knot, and obviously, he had no idea about it. Our MC then explained that the Gordian knot was an elaborate and complicated knot that can't be entangled. But there's one method that could solve this and make this one untangled. Brocken still had no idea what was the solution. Dex revealed that there's no other way but to cut it. Even if everyone did their best, there's no way they could solve it. And the simplest method was to just cut it. As for what will happen afterwards, Dex was sure that things will eventually work out. The Count was astonished about the irresponsible attitude that Dex had, but he knew that this was the perspective that they needed in order to fix the problem of the Maroon Kingdom. There's no other better solution than our MC's. This man gained more respect from the Count and he allowed Dex to just do everything he wanted. He knew that there's something more about this adventurer. Right in front of him was the one who's the most fearsome among all of the creatures that exists in this world. After this, the system notified Dex that he had successfully made his way towards the main role of changing the fate of the Maroon Kingdom. The main mission was also updated. It now has the sub-quest that requires our MC to assassinate Duke Burn. Dex thought that this game was really interesting because the quests around him were adjusting to the way he plays the game. And because it was about killing, Satan appeared on the side of Dex. This piques his interest. On the other side was Elle, and she was trying to tell Dex not to do the sub-quest. This was really about how our MC would approach this quest, and it made these two have some non-stop bickering again. Elle said that they could still kill the Duke, but they should inform him and request a duel first. This confused our MC because it would defeat the main purpose of assassination. Angels really had interesting ways of doing things. She insisted that they should give the Duke at least a 3-day notice so he could prepare for it. Satan thought that her idea was too shady. The two started arguing again, and then Dex revealed that he doesn't want to deal with the Duke right away. This made these two stop and ask their master the reason behind this. It was then revealed that Dex wanted to know both sides of the story first. He's sure that Duke Burhan would just start a war without a proper reason. A perspective from someone who was not even born in the Maroon Kingdom, just like Dex, was important. He knew that this was all because of the power struggle, and this was a good thing for him. Because after all, he was just concerned about the profit he could earn from this quest. And right now, he was leaning on helping the side that would give him the most benefit. Both of his familiars can't believe their master's way of doing things. This kind of attitude could only be described as a perfect self-centeredness. Some things like promises would be disregarded easily for the sake of greater profit. And that's the way Dex wanted to live his life inside the game. Meanwhile, at the GM Group headquarters, news about the Agent Electronics stock price was being broadcasted. It set a new record and broke $5,000. The main reason for this was because there were a lot more investors having great interest with their technology especially Arcadia. Choi Soon-young, the GM Group chairman and the father of Jeju, was having a headache just by hearing this news. He was quite annoyed because of Ajin Electronics' Dreamer capsule. He remembered that 5 years ago, his company was on par with Ajin Group and they were considered rivals. But they started to lose because the Ajin Group led the revolution towards technology. But the most prominent product that the Ajin Group introduced was the Dreamer. This started a trend not just in Korea but worldwide. He was now thinking that his company should not just stay in old industries like construction and automobiles, because if he would let this happen, his company would become outdated. While he was thinking of some ways to resolve this problem, his assistant called and told him that his son, Choi Jeju, was coming into his office. This guy opened the door and rushed towards his father because of the good news he had. He told his father that he needed 8 billion won, and this was Soon-young's reaction. Jeju tried convincing his father to give him more investment, as he promised that this will be the last time that he will ask for money. But Soon-young got annoyed because his son thinks that this amount of money was just small. He then asked his son why he would need more of it. Before he could talk more about how he had let Jeju play the game that their rival developed, a thick business proposal was then handed to his desk. This old man got intrigued and asked Jeju what was this thing about. This guy smiled and asked his father to go and read some of the pages of this proposal. Soon-young found out that this was about the colonization project of his son towards the Maroon Kingdom. A few more moments passed by as the chairman scans all the documents handed to him. And when he was done, he asked Jeju if all of this information was true. Choi Jeju then assured his father that all of these things were facts and he was already in a good relationship with the NPC named Duke Burn. And if all of these things will go according to their plan, the economy of the game that Ajin Group created will fall into their hands. They will take full control of it. Instead of 8 billion won, Soon-young gave his son 50 billion won. He told Jeju to settle this matter with that amount of money, but he will not give him anything more than that number. This was also the last chance he will be giving his son. This guy's face brightened up as he got another chance to prove himself again. He thanked his father for this opportunity. After that, Jeju left the room. This old man was then left all alone while thinking about the things that he just read about the game. He thought that Arcadia really has a different world inside of it. He smiled because he never expected that a mere game would have complex things like that. Choi Soon-young spent more time thinking that the world was really now changing. Back to Arcadia, at Duke Burhan Estate. This huge house was really guarded in and out. And right now, this guy from the Harmel Empire named Sir Lino was inside Duke Burhan's room. This old man asked him what his purpose for coming in here was. His empire sent him because they knew that Duke Burhan was already preparing for war and they had something to propose. The Harmel Empire has expressed their great interest towards the Harel Plains, and if Duke Burhan could promise them this place, they will aid him in this war. They would even make sure that this old man will become the king of the Maroon Kingdom. This was really an interesting offer coming from their neighboring empire. The Harel Plains was located at the center of the Maroon Kingdom and Harmel Empire. And if they could have this, their nation's defense would improve a lot. Duke Burhan thought that this was a reasonable proposal and would unlikely turn into a trap. He then agreed to the proposal and they made their contract. This old man told Sir Leonid that he was glad that they now have this kind of relationship. Sir Leonid said the same back to Duke Burhan and added that he hopes that nothing would make this old man change his heart about this decision. And with that, the Duke of all the nobles gained another ally. He was quite happy because all the things he had planned were coming into place. He then remembered this verse. Under one person, but above the whole world. Duke Burhan thought that this verse was really for him. He kinda related to it because technically, he now rules all the people around him. He smiled because the only person who was above him was an 8-year-old king who knew nothing. He thought that this country really needed a real king that would lead them to prosperity, and he would want to be that king. And while he was being happy about these plans, he was interrupted by someone. The person who entered his room was the leader of the GM merchantry, Choi. The Duke asked him why he went in there to meet him personally. Choi then revealed that he had already done his job. He purchased all the rations that would be produced in the future from the territories of the Parkle Kingdom. And as for the existing supply that was on the market, he had also bought all of them. This old man was impressed because the adventurer in front of him managed to do all of those things in such a short period of time. He then asked the concept of buying the rations in advance. Choi told him that he used the concept of futures trading. This was a kind of contract that one would make in order to trade certain products on a certain date in the future. The Duke was clearly impressed with this concept and he praised the adventurer's merchantry. This man then made his move. He was wanting to make sure that all the things they had talked about in their meeting was in place because he had done his part of the bargain. Duke Burton then showed this kind of smile. He stood up and told Choi that this adventurer was rushing into things too much. And the Duke couldn't even be bothered with these things right now. This old man told him that he will discuss all of these things again once the war is over. Choi tried to cut him off and asked for more assurance. But then it annoyed Duke Burton because it felt like Choi was doubting him. This was more than enough to silence this guy and be intimidated. He knew that the Duke got him. Choi then answered politely because he really had no other choice. He can't push this contract because it might change this Duke's mind. Duke Burton got away again without losing anything. And right after the Duke left the room, Choi Jeju punched the wall. He was quite furious because a mere NPC inside a game got the better of him. He thought that he should just play along with this setup because he had already invested a lot of money just to be on the Duke's good side. Turns out, Jeju bought 500,000 gold and used this amount to buy all the grains in the market. And this consumed all the 50 billion won that his father gave to him. But this amount was not even enough to buy all the grains that were currently inside Arcadia. And that's where the concept of futures trading came into place. He made sure that he would be able to disable the Parkle Kingdom with his move. But this cost him 10 million gold to fulfill the contract. If this was converted into their currency, it would amount to 1 trillion won. If this plan fails, it will not only shake the GM merchantry inside the game but their main GM group business as well. This guy kept this from his father because he knew that Suna would not let him do something like this. He was kinda shaking because he was already thinking on how he could get out of this situation. He only needed to make sure that a war would happen. And as far as he knows, it will definitely come. Jeju thought that this should succeed because this was the last resort he got to prove himself. But as he was too absorbed with these thoughts, he felt something. Someone just passed by in front of him and wondered who's this one. Choi Jeju ran towards this person, but he was too late. The man was already gone. He was still catching his breath when he realized that he missed him. This guy thought that the outfit of this mysterious man was only for the beginners of this game. He was now wondering why a low-leveled adventurer was just casually walking towards the Duke's mansion. This guy was being paranoid with all the pressure he was feeling. He then made this signal. A group of men who were all in black clothes suddenly appeared. He told these men that there's now someone inside the meeting room and he would want them to keep a close eye towards this person and bring him to Choi Jeju. This man had no idea who this mysterious beginner was, but he would make sure that this man would not ruin his plans. Meanwhile, inside the meeting room of the Duke, our MC handed this old man a letter of recommendation and pretended that this was from Count Brocken. But since Duke Burhan was too smart, he knew that this was really not the case. Why Dex went to meet him. Dex then smiled and told Duke Burhan that he wanted to execute Count Brocken. This caught him off guard. Our MC then explained everything to this old man. But the bottom line was Count Brocken wanted Duke Burhan gone because he thought that this was the only way to prevent the war. This old man would not just believe something from a random guy. He asked Dex for some proof. Dex then told him that he didn't need to show him more proof because just him being in there was more than enough. Count Brocken also had the motive to do this to him. Duke Burhan then agreed to what our MC said. The familiars of Dex then started talking to him. They told Dex that this was his idea and now he was twisting the facts. But then, Satan thought that Dex was doing this on purpose. This was confirmed as our MC signaled to Satan that he should just keep things into himself right now. The Duke told Dex that he never expected Count Brocken to do such a thing, but Dex added that people do all sorts of things when they are desperate. This old man then went to the main point. He asked what Dex wanted in exchange for all of this information. Dex already knew that this king wannabe would ask this question. He told Duke Burton that this answer was obvious. Dex would not want some immature child to become a king. He was rooting for someone who was experienced and wise. This was more than enough to get this old man's attention and favor. But our MC didn't stop there. He added and told the Duke that he would want a kingdom ruled by this wise Duke. And that was it. It left Duke Burton laughing at the top of his lungs. He then asked this adventurer his name, and our MC told him his nickname. The old and mighty Dex. These two felt like they understood each other and even shook hands. Duke Burton already expressed his fondness towards our MC. After that successful brainwashing, meeting, Dex went out and left the mansion. Elle was already praying to her God to forgive Dex for committing such a crazy act. Even Satan didn't expect this move. Their master just put himself in the middle of two conflicting powers. But then Dex revealed that he was just messing around with plausibility, and it silenced these two. Our MC explained that a war would eventually start sooner or later, and the only thing that they were waiting for was the one who would start it. But there's only one thing that was certain. Dex positioned himself towards more responsibilities when this war started. This would mean that he will be making a huge role again, and it would help him earn more plausibility, just like in the slime incident. Satan figured out that having a war would be beneficial to his master. But then he asked why he didn't go to Duke Burton directly. Dex smiled and told him that his plan would not work if he did that. Our MC needed someone who will fight Duke Burton in case he becomes a king, and right now, their only choice was Count Brocken. This demon king was shocked as the elaborate plan of his master was unveiled in front of him. He figured out that aside from the external chaos that Dex wanted to be a part with, his master will also stir another internal conflict, and this one would really be more chaotic. Dex had been planning out to benefit in two wars, and right now, he was already in a great position. Satan was now being amazed by the plan of his master. Double the war, double the plausibility. A notebook then popped out of nowhere. The almighty king of the demons started taking notes from our MC's philosophy in life. He was being enlightened by Dex's plans. This man right here was more demon than anyone he knew. And while Dex was enjoying this moment, he heard a voice. Two shadow figures then appeared in front of him and asked Dex to come with them. And as usual, this guy maintained a calm expression. He even thought that this situation was gonna be fun. Later that night, at the GM event, this place was the base of these men, and right now, they have Dex with them. Choi greeted him as he was brought up. Our MC sarcastically thanked Choi for the escorts he had sent to fetch him, and this guy returned the flattery. They have more than enough people to spare for this kind of mission. Both of these adventurers' names were hidden, so they knew something was already up. Now, these two adventurers who could someday change how Arcadia works were facing each other on this table. Dex initiated the talk. He asked why he was brought up here. He found out that Choi just wanted to check something. This reason clearly annoyed Dex because this was not really a good one. Choi didn't waste any more time and asked our MC why he was with Duke Burton. Dex then refuses to answer this question because he really doesn't need to tell him anything. Choi slammed his fist on the table. He was kinda furious by this answer and started threatening Dex. He tried emitting an intimidating aura towards our MC. This made his familiars come out and warn Dex about messing up with this guy. Dex then started to think clearly about his situation. Right from the start, he was already ambushed by these two. Another 5 of them were blocking the entrance. And since this guy didn't disclose his in-game name, he was quite confident that he could get away with this move. He was sure that Dex would not retaliate. Our MC was already leaning on using his divine descent because he thought that he had no other choice. But someone stopped him. It was this old guy named John Smith. He quickly apologized to Dex because they got off on the wrong foot. Dex immediately knew that this old man was worth talking to. He also pointed out Choi's attitude. He doesn't look like he just wanted to ask questions. And once again, this guy shouted and warned Dex on becoming close with Duke Burton. Our MC started to enjoy this one and provoked him more. Choi then told Dex that from now on, he will make sure that things will start becoming difficult on Dex. But before Choi could utter more dangerous words, he was stopped by John Smith. He told his master that he needed to calm down because he had already crossed the line. John Smith apologized again to Dex and tried to explain what really was happening. This made Dex smile because this old man was really something else. It was then revealed that their real identity was that they were from the GM group. Dex was clearly stunned and asked if they were really the GM group in real life, and it was confirmed. A bag of gold coins were then put on the table. The old man told Dex that he can't really disclose everything, but he added that their company has already invested quite a lot of money into Duke Burn. They then asked our MC if he understood the situation they were in, and since this was free money, he gladly took it. In exchange, he will just drop the quest that the Duke gave to him. This sudden turn of events shocked these two. Later that night, the meeting was done, and right now, Dex was being interviewed by his familiars. Satan was shocked because the GM group also wanted to start a war. Their master was also happy because he felt like he got an unexpected allowance from the GM group. He now knew that the GM group also invested a lot in this game and they were expecting to make some profit once the war was initiated. But this had nothing to do with him since he was also looking forward to the war. Dex then suddenly stopped walking. Something was wrong. This guy was still furious because Choi really got on his nerves. He then told Satan and L that he had already decided what to do. With this smile on his face, he decided to kill Duke Burn. L was kinda happy hearing this, but Satan was not. He was now protesting why his master would kill a perfectly fine Duke that could lead the kingdom. Meanwhile, L was happy because his master was finally going to do something good. This way, Dex could also keep his promise towards Count Brocken. Dex also explained to Elle that he will not do this in her way. He can't be assassinated if he informs them about this plan, and it broke this angel's heart. She then started to whine against this idea. She will also not let our MC use divine descent. Elle also started to scold our MC about his actions, and Dex tried his best to make his familiar consider his situation. Satan was left there staring and watching them argue. But then he had a great idea. Our bad boy Demon King let out this kind of smile. He then called his master. Satan told his master that he could still borrow some powers from him. That is, if he didn't mind that it was from the demon realm. Satan revealed that he could also lend him the same skill, divine descent. Dex didn't expect this situation. Satan then started forming the contract, and a magic circle appeared below our MC. The system then notified Dex that the contract was successful. He can now borrow powers from the demon realm in exchange for some plausibility. Our MC just gained more options to shake the whole Arcadia. After confirming the contract, Dex felt a surge of power coming out from him. He now has a list of character selection on his divine descent skill. Dex thought that these guys were all interesting. Satan found out that his master was quite satisfied with his new power because the power of these demons were focused on destroying something unlike the ones from the heavens. Dex then asked Satan why he didn't mention that he could also grant him this skill. In Satan's defense, his master never asked, and he thought that Dex only wanted heaven's power. But it was established again that Dex really didn't care about these things. He started choosing from the list that he got like he was just shopping for something. He chose the one who looked like the god of death. Satan was wondering why would Dex choose this guy of all demons. Dex then told him that he had already seen this guy's face in a history book in the library. Elle then tried to check the one that his master chose, and he was quite shocked. This guy was known as Death's Legion, Lin Argamer. This one was considered as the most evil dark mage ever existed. He was the peak of necromancy, and he once defeated one empire and 4 kingdoms all by himself. With the war that this demon had won, his name was then engraved in the history of Arcadia forever. And right now, the personification of Death's power was handed on to our MC. Dex has started his move. He scouted the Duke mansion. He saw that there were 2 guards roaming around it and thought that this was the perfect time to use his new power. These 2 high-leveled guards immediately felt that something was wrong. This one told his companion that there's someone on the roof. It was none other than Dex. Our MC smiled and used his divine descent skill, and as expected, He chose Lik Argamer's soul, and the dark mage's power started pouring down to his body. These guards felt immense pressure. They can't even move their body just by looking at their opponent's face. The system then notified Dex that the Divine Descent skill was successful. He could now use the power of the Ling. Dex checked all of this Link's skills, and these were all he had expected. The guards knew that this guy was capable of using dark magic type of skill, and it was clearly a high-leveled one. He knew that he can't let his guard down, and he should use all of his strength right away. He also informed his companion that they should not try to capture this man alive because he was too dangerous and the whole mansion could be in danger. Our MC smiled hearing this warning. He then started his attack. Multiple shadow figures were then released towards the guards. Luckily, one of them has this Holy Shield skill, and they were able to deflect the attack. Dex was impressed because the rumors about Duke Burhan's guards were true. They were all powerful. He also saw this one who had a paladin type of power who was already rushing towards him. This man unlocked his divine power skill. His sword started shining because this was called the Judgment Blade. Dex didn't even panic. He knew that their attributes really contradict each other. Our MC used the skill called Spirit Spear. A huge demon was summoned and it pierced right through its opponent. The moment he received the attack, this guy found out something. He started shouting that Dex was a necromancer, but it was already too late. His companion also started shaking in fear. He can't believe that there's a Li in the Maroon Kingdom. This one turned around and tried running away. He wanted to warn everyone about the danger that they were facing, but it was too late. Dex didn't let this one escape, because he knew that necromancers were most vulnerable right before summoning the undead. And Dex wouldn't want to gamble fighting all the guards without a proper army. In an instant, these two guards have fallen. Dex smiled because this meant that he got all the materials he needed. Our MC used his skill Raise the Dead, and these two started to float in the air. An ominous dark aura then struck the guards, and after a while, they were turned into a low-ranked ghoul warrior and an intermediate-ranked death knight. Dex has now dedicated this execution towards the GM group's young master, Choi Jeju. In the world of Arcadia, necromancers also exist. They were the ones who could summon an army of the dead because they infused their mana into a corpse. It was also known that a single necromancer could create a force of its own. He could create an army that was far greater than any kingdom could. These ones were also the most sought-after demons when there's a large-scale or siege war. And right now, our MC was wreaking havoc inside Duke Burhan's mansion with his own army of the dead. Dex was quite satisfied with the battle plan that he had conducted. The other guards started moving as well. They didn't expect that an army of the dead would come into them and attack. They were asking all the holy knights to provide reinforcements, but the ones they were seeking for help had turned into undead as well. This one knew that there's nothing more they could do to stop this attack. Dex told them that it seemed like they were abandoned, but our MC assured them one thing. He will make sure that their skeletons will be put into good use. This overwhelming power of the dead was enough to freeze them on their tracks. The ones who died were quickly turned into new soldiers in Dex's army. Our MC smiled and congratulated these newly converted ones. He also gave them the most special mission. He wanted these ones to find the guy who abandoned them, Duke Burhan. These guys quickly bowed down and promised that they would follow Dex's orders. Some of them even had tears in their eyes. They were grateful for this opportunity. After that, the undead soldiers went on their way. Dex was now hoping that Duke Burhan would hide himself well, because sooner or later, Dex's army would find him. The whole mansion has now fallen into Dex's hands, and after a few moments, this old man woke up because of all the commotion that was happening outside. He asked his guards what all the noise was about. This one opened the door and advised the Duke that he should go and evacuate immediately. The guard was already crying in fear because a Lin had appeared inside the mansion. As soon as he heard the word Lin, this old man felt the terror in his body. The Duke told the guard that they should all go and protect him. But it was already too late. Dex finally found where the Duke was hiding. Dark orbs then entered the room of Duke Burhan. This old man didn't understand what was really happening. But then the dark orbs turned into these undead warriors. The guards who attempted to flee were then caught. They had no chance of winning against these undead. Duke Burhan started to back off as he saw these monsters inside his mansion. More and more undead soldiers entered the room. Duke Burhan even recognized one of the swords of these undead warriors. This one is the same sword that Lenner used. He then found out that all of the monsters in front of him were his previous guards. This guy was now terrified by the fact that a necromancer appeared in the Maroon Kingdom. Dex then came in and greeted the Duke once again. This old man recognized the face of Dex and started talking his way out of this mess. He told Dex that he didn't have to do something like this just to have a meeting with him. He told our MC that he was willing to give him anything in exchange for keeping him alive. Satan's role model revealed the only thing he wanted, and that was the death of Duke Burhan. The Duke's life was now in danger because of Choi Jeju's arrogant behavior towards our MC. This old man was now crying in fear and asked Dex the reason he was doing this. Dex then told him that the Duke should be more careful with the people he was making allies with. Our MC added that he really didn't care about the war or him becoming the king. He didn't even want the profit out of this war. He reminded the Duke that the only thing he should have avoided was annoying the shit out of Dex. Dex was too disappointed because he thought that this Duke was wise enough, but he was wrong. The Duke needed to use those brainless GM Merchantry Association just to complete his mission. He then commanded his soldiers to finish this. The personal guards who were supposed to guard this old man's life were now heading towards him. And just like that, our MC had disrupted the whole game again. The system notified him that Duke Burhan died. The plans that this old man conducted were now put in a halt. A total of 321 related quests have also been deleted. Our MC gained another title called Noble Murderer. With this attack, Dex gained 53,000 plausibility points. Dex was satisfied seeing this generous reward because this was way more than the slime incidence rate. And since their master gained more plausibility points, these two familiars appeared all of a sudden. Our MC was kinda annoyed because his familiar's senses were too on point when it comes to these things. Dex asked Satan if he could continuously use this power. Satan assured him that this one had no time limit and he could use the necromancer's power as long as he has plausibility. This Demon King was now concerned about what his master was about to do next because Dex already had his demon face equipped. Our MC used his skill again and turned Duke Burhan into one of his undead. He told everyone that if he's gonna make some mess, he will make sure he has done this right. Dex was planning to use this power to destroy more places, and right now, he was referring to Choi Jeju, the young master of the GM group at the Holy Empire. The Pope of this place was having some trouble sleeping. He wished that none of their god's followers would lose their way tonight. This guy's name was Emin. His attention was then diverted as he heard someone addressing him. It was coming from this lady with white hair. This one was Sylvia, and she was one of the saintess of the Holy Empire. She went to talk to the Pope because she had a revelation in her dream. It was shown to her that a great movement of darkness was happening somewhere in Arcadia. She felt the presence of our MC, and the Pope's face immediately changed. He then asked the saintess if she had some clues about the place where this darkness was. Even the slightest and smallest detail would greatly help them. Sylvia then recalled that she heard someone dying while calling the name of Duke Burhan. The Pope knew who this man was. Duke Burhan was the true power behind the Maroon Kingdom. The saintess continued crying because she saw the pitiful state of the guards that were dying in her dreams. The Pope then consoled her and told her that this was the way of their gods to warn them. A few moments after, a knight with this red hair came and kneeled in front of the Pope and the saintess. This one was Yegudil, and he has the highest ranking among the holy knights. The Pope personally asked for his assistance because the saintess had a revelation. He wanted this holy knight to go and investigate what really happened to Duke Burhan. He should also look for the trace of darkness that appeared in Arcadia. Since the death of Duke Burhan, his territory had a great confusion. All of its production ability was reduced by 85% and the military force was reduced by 98%. All of the citizens who were also near the mansion felt fear and left the territory. And all of these things happened because of one adventurer. Dex finished his job by casting one last spell. These were dark flames and it consumed the official flag of the Burhan Dukedom. The system then notified Dex with his achievements. He had single-handedly subjugated Duke Burhan's territory. He also gained a new title called Vicious Necromancer. In addition to all of these, our MC got 14,000 plausibility, and right now, he was just chilling at the top of the mansion. He thought that this was really a great sight to see. Dex was now thinking that the Necromancer class was too good. He wished that he had used this power earlier. He then started closely to these skeleton soldiers below him. Our MC realized the only downside of having this power. He would eventually get tired looking at them every day. In the end, the power of Lig Argamer was really useful because it allowed him to complete his quest and manage to harvest around 60,000 plausibility points. But something bothered Dex. He knew that it would not do him any good if this situation drags any longer. Our MC was still concerned that he was still using borrowed power. He can only harness this amount of power because he exchanges his plausibility points with it. Eventually, he might need to consume more points and the amount he was gaining from quests will not be enough. Dex then asked Tan about the amount of points he had already consumed. This Demon King brought out a calculator and started adding things up like the power that Dex used on killing the Duke, destroying the mansion, and summoning all the undead. In total, this familiar winked as he told his master that he would have to pay 42,284 points. Tan also called his master a weakling and Dex heard it. Our MC also wanted to have some discount because the amount was just too much. This shocked Satan because he didn't expect someone would try to bargain against him. Tan tried telling his master that this was really a fair rate considering the amount of power he consumed. But Dex told him that he should be at least treated as a VIP and he would want some discounts or coupons. Satan was already shaking because Dex just treated him like someone from a department store. But then, our MC brought out his weapon against Satan. He told the Demon King that if he will not give him discounts, he will not transact with him again and L could monopolize all the plausibility points. This angel's face brightened up as soon as she heard this statement. Since Satan could not afford losing plausibility, he told Dex that he would take 40,000 points as payment. But our MC stood firm and asked for just paying 35,000. These two then continued to bargain at each other. But clearly, Tan was at a disadvantage. L could only watch the sad negotiations that were happening. Satan went as low as 36,500 just to close this deal and our MC gladly agreed. They shook their hands but this one was really extremely cheap. The system then computed all the points needed and it deducted 36,500 points. Dex also got a transcendental achievement. He was the first one to rip off the Demon King. He also got this as his new title. Having this title also increased his negotiation skills by 7 ranks. Our MC can't believe that just ripping off the Demon King would increase this skill so much. Right now, Satan was annoyed because he can't accept that something like this happened to him. L told him that this thing was called karma. After this, Dex concluded that they were now done with this place. This adventure turned a whole territory into a disaster in one night. Our MC then said his goodbyes to Dex. He told them that he still has something he needed to do somewhere. With this quest out of the way, he would need to finish things up. The familiars will know what this thing was as the time passes. He told Elle and Tan to look forward to it. And just like that, our MC logged out. He immediately went in front of his computer and checked the Arcadia website. There were now news and forums about the things that he did in Duke Burhan's mansion. This screenshot was also all over the news because it showed that a necromancer just destroyed a whole territory. Most of the comments can't believe that the game would allow something like this to happen. But as usual, our MC was quite satisfied seeing all of these reactions. He wondered how people would react once they found out that the person who did this was the same person who was involved at the slime incident. Yin thought that right now, he had all the things that he needed. He will now proceed on his next mission and that was to disrupt the young master's life. Ever since he was young, our MC had always enjoyed playing MMORPGs. And this was not the first time he encountered the likes of Jeju in the GM group. He also found a perfect method to deal with these people who tried to abuse their power to do some things inside the game. Ying started his plan right from the moment Jeju annoyed him. He then opened a bunch of recording files from his computer. This one was a recording that includes Jeju and Duke Burhan talking about their plans on taking over Arcadia's economy. The ones who were able to get these recordings were Satan and L. Ying then proceeds on editing all the parts that he was included in and just leaves the ones that could pin Jeju and his company. This guy was also caught talking with someone and clearly said his intentions towards monopolizing the whole Maroon Kingdom. Our MC even included the part where Jeju said that he will get all the money from the foals that were playing this game. This was more than enough to destroy the image of Choi Jeju towards the public. And when he was already content with this video, he uploaded it on his YouTube channel, which right now has more than 274,000 subscribers. He even made this interesting title and thumbnail. The only thing he needed to do was to wait this out. Ying went to sleep as the night passed by. The video was now accumulating a lot of views. And right now, it already has more than 1 million views. The people who watched this one were also furious because someone tried to get their money from them. And all the while, this guy was awake. Right at this moment, he knew he messed up. The old man then appeared all of a sudden. They were wondering how their private conversation leaked out. They didn't expect this because they only talked about these things to places that even their hired mercenaries didn't know. Jeju was not able to contain his anger and punched the monitor. He swore that he will make the one who did this regret his decision. The old man tried calming his master as this was not their priority now because they needed to hide this to the GM group itself. But it seemed that it was already too late. His father was calling him. Jeju immediately panicked. He didn't know what to do. This guy knew that he was really done for. This scandal even reached the 9am news and it was broadcasted all over their country. The reporter also revealed that the culprit behind this monopolization inside Arcadia was none other than the GM Group. Agin Electronics told the public that this rumor was true and that they have bought a lot of gold inside the game. It was also disclosed the total amount of funds invested. It was said to be around $750,000. The CEO of Arcadia, Lee Myung, said that the GM Group should now be waiting for the investigation of the Fair Trade Commission and the prosecution in regards to their stance on this incident. This lady was quite amused because their game had caused a large commotion. She thought that this was the first time a virtual reality game has affected reality. The branch manager was now asking his boss if this move was really clever. Myung told him that this was the perfect example they could show to the world that other companies couldn't just target their game. She smiled and was eager to see this thing through to the end. This CEO knew that the longer this issue drags out, the one who will be losing more was the GM Group. And meanwhile, Arcadia will gain more popularity and get the public's attention. The branch manager thought that the guts of his boss was the real deal. In fact, this lady wasn't really concerned about what will happen towards GM Group. Her attention was now caught by the guy who uploaded the video. Myung knew that this adventurer was the same one who caused the slime incident, iron ore slave incident, and the one on the Burhan dukedom. She was quite intrigued because a single user managed to do all of these things and make history inside and outside the game. And that mysterious user she was referring to was just yawning inside his classroom. Yijun then appeared all of a sudden. He excitedly told our MC about the hoarding incident that the GM Group conducted. Ying was really a good actor. He pretended that he didn't know anything about this. Meanwhile, Yijun proceeds to discuss that Arcadia's economy was big enough to attract large companies. They would want to have some control over this valuable resource inside the game. This guy claimed that Arcadia was not just a game now. It had become a whole new world itself. Our MC was happy seeing his friend with this great enthusiasm. In the back of his mind, things were all going according to his plan. The reaction of Yijun and all the other players inside Arcadia proved this point. And most importantly, this arrogant young master was now being bombarded with interviews. Ying was happy because he taught this guy a lesson. This thought process was then interrupted when our MC heard an unfamiliar voice. It came from this guy who introduced himself as Kang Puljun. He was a researcher of Arcadia and he will be assigned for today's special lecture. Some of the students didn't mind this, but Dex was quite interested. Someone from Arcadia was about to teach them some things about their course. Meanwhile, inside Arcadia, Satan was already feeling so bored because their master hasn't come back. His nap was then interrupted when he felt something coming in their way. This familiar felt an immense power, and it was coming from the ones who came near their place. After a few moments, Satan saw this group of men who were marching towards the mansion. Their power was already equivalent to hundreds of men. He knew that he would not want to be caught up with this, and he decided to go and hide first. The Holy Knight army that was led by the highest-ranked knight was then met with the hordes of undead. Egudiel immediately used his holy light skill to purify this place. The undead were no match with his power. Just a few seconds later, the army of undead were almost wiped out. He then kneeled and paid his respects to his fellow holy knight who turned into undead. Egudiel thought that none of this would have happened if he just came here much earlier. He also informed all of the guards that were with him that this place was filled with high-rank undead, and if they would force their way inside the mansion, they would have a lot of losses. He commanded the guards that they should report this to the Pope as soon as possible. Egudiel wanted to inform the Holy Empire that a necromancer who was capable of leaving a mark in history had appeared once again. Back to the real world. This professor who was working from Arcadia started his lecture. He's gonna check something that will change the lives of these students. Professor Kang Puljun discussed that virtual reality's technology was mainly connected to the brain. These two then sent communication to each other and were being interpreted simultaneously. But he revealed that these communication lines could vary based on the capacity of one's brain to be connected to virtual reality. That only meant that there will still be people who will have that talent when it comes to this technology. Yeon was clearly interested in this topic. The rate that the brain and the machine receives and sends signals can now be measured. The professor told them that right now, they call it the synchronization rate. The students were all quite intrigued with this new criteria that could help them in their course. The professor then asked them if there's someone who would like to measure his or her synchro rate. Someone raised his hand and volunteered. This one was Kang Tisu. He was a first-year student like Yeon. Other students were amazed because of his courage, but most of the girls thought that this one was handsome. Meanwhile, Yijun had a different reaction, and this was noticed by our MC. Ying then found out that Kang Tisu went to the same class where Yijun studied as well. This guy was usually the leader of the group, and he was quite popular with all the girls. Our MC thought that he really doesn't care about this guy, so he let go of the chain of thoughts. But something startled him. It was Kang Tisu, and he told Ying that he looks forward to being in the same class as our MC. This guy then went in front and talked to the professor about the procedure. Ying clearly felt that something was going on right now. Kang Tisu purposely tried to annoy him. Kang Puljun and his assistant then guided Tisu inside this capsule. They told everyone that this was a machine that they used to measure the synchronization rate. There's still one device like this that was more accurate, but the one they brought up with them would already suffice. They also assured everyone that this test was safe. The professor excitedly told everyone that they were about to start. The capsule started emitting this bright blue light. Kang Tisu thought that this measurement was pointless because he already expects to get a high rate. He will also use this to show everyone that he was far greater than anybody inside the class. He wanted to make sure that Yijun and his friend will start to recognize him because he doesn't really like them. Kang Tisu hates those who have eyes that seem like they are not interested in anything except for themselves. And our MC was the perfect example for this one. This guy was sure that he would use this opportunity to beat Yeon. All the while, the capsule was scanning and measuring Kang Tisu's talent, and he got 21.35%. The professor was quite amazed because the average person would only get around 10s. This was really a high rate. This guy nearby broke the highest record, which was at 26%. Tisu came out and started to thank the professor for flattering him. Professor Pijun didn't waste more time and asked the other students if they also wanted to try this one. But then Kang Tisu pointed out someone. He suggested that this guy should take the test as well. It was none other than Yeon. I think that our MC was already expecting this thing to happen. Yijun quickly apologized. Yeon was now being targeted by Kang Tisu because of him. Yeon just smiled and took this one as a little interesting game. With that, Our boy was already inside the capsule. This guy smiled because he already knew something. The synchronization rate was now getting higher and higher. The bright blue light that was coming from it became more intense. Yi-jun was thrilled by what he was seeing. The assistant of Professor Piljun was now panicking because she thought that the machine was already malfunctioning. But the professor stopped her. He was sure that this one was not an error. After a while, the light started to calm down, and the total synchronization rate was unbelievable. 92.89%. Kang Piljun never expected that the highest record of 26% would just be beaten by a college kid. Meanwhile, this guy was dumbfounded. He got defeated by our MC. The other students that were also in Ying's class were all amazed. Ying then came out from the capsule. He smiled as he thought that his score was interesting. The class then ended after some time. Our MC was now holding his phone and looking at the articles where Choi Jeju was apologizing to the media. Ying was quite happy with how things have turned out. He just taught two guys a lesson on how to be kind and humble. He also noticed something from his YouTube channel. The views of his video already got 88 million and it created a huge exposure towards other countries as well. Ying thought that he would not be worried about money now because this channel was already earning a lot of money. He knew that with this, he wouldn't need to worry about the payment for his rent and the capsule he bought. Our MC could also earn more money by exchanging plausibility to Satan and L for an item that he can also sell. He can't believe that this might also be the last time he might eat kimbap again as a university student. He then heard someone shouting his name. It was Yi-jun, and this one was still catching his breath from the run he did. His friend congratulated him because he clearly defeated Kang Tishu with his score. All the professors were also now talking about Ying. As for Yi-jun, he only got 15% synchronization rate. Yi-jun then told something to Ying and it got his attention. This guy thought that his friend was really amazing in all kinds of ways. He's now wondering how well Ying would do if he started playing Arcadia. Hearing this question made our MC silent. He then revealed to Yi-jun that he was already playing Arcadia and it shocked him. Recently, there have been a lot of things that went according to his plan. He was able to teach some guys a lesson. The kimbap he's eating right now was also delicious. On top of that, the weather that day was great. And for other known or unknown reasons, our MC told his friend that he had been playing Arcadia since open beta. He also told Yi-jun that his in-game name was Dex. This created an awkward atmosphere around them. Yi-jun needed a few seconds to process what our MC said to him. This guy started sweating as he remembered the nickname of Dex. He started feeling chills on his spine as he remembered who Dex was. This player was known to all Korean online games. Dex was a player who ranked first on all the games out there. He was also the one who defeated multiple pro teams. And since this player was too legendary, Yi-jun thought that maybe Ying was just a fan of Dex. But our MC insisted that he really is Dex. He just doesn't have anything to prove this to his friend because he deleted all of his accounts. Yi-jun then remembered that Ying got a whopping 92% synchronization rate on the capsule. Things started to make sense. This guy kneeled immediately because that score was more than enough proof to believe what Ying told him. Yi-jun then shouted that he wanted some autographs from the legendary Dex. Our MC didn't expect that his friend was a huge fan of his troll accounts. Meanwhile, at the Valley of Cold Heart, this place's recommended level was at 85 because of all the strong monsters lurking around. And right now, a group of adventurers were trying to clear this place. They were also panicking because they never expected the number of monsters in this place. This group was also now looking for the necromancer that asked them to pull all the monsters in. This lady then appeared and used a skill called Dark Swarm. Lots of undead frogs started attacking the monsters around the area. The adventurers were now amazed at what they were seeing. A black mage was able to solo all the monsters with just one skill. This white-haired lady was the #1 black mage in this game and she was currently level 86. She's known as Black Flame Dragon of Darkness. After defeating all the monsters with her skill, she thanked these adventurers for luring them. These ones then thanked her back. They also apologized because they didn't recognize her earlier. She told them that was not really important. This created a good vibe around them because this high-leveled player was too kind, and when she asked if they could still help her luring the monsters out, they immediately agreed. This guy also asked her a question out of curiosity. He was wondering if the black mage used all of her skills just to defeat the monsters earlier. She revealed that the cooldown of her skills should be back up again by the time they have pulled the monsters out, so everything should be okay. He was now impressed because this lady could cast a high area of effect skill and have it so with a short cooldown. He now understood why other people say that players will get stronger faster as long as they have a black mage with them. They were basically being carried out by this powerful class. After a while, their hunt and leveling up session was done. They proceeded to thank each other. These guys were now looking forward to their next hunt. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness was now left alone in this place. She started to yawn because this game was now starting to get boring. She checked her status window and there's nothing interesting. She also saw the quest regarding the death of Duke Burren. This one needed an adventurer that could do some investigations if he was really killed by a black mage. This lady remembered who Duke Burhan was and she can't believe that he's now dead. She thought of doing this quest but then immediately gave up because this player behind this incident should really be smart. He even outsmarted all the people in the forums of Arcadia because there's still no clue about his identity. She then wonders who might really be this player and what's his real identity. Her heart starts to pound faster as she thinks about the possibility that this incident was really done by a single player. But she quickly gave up the thought because this was really impossible even for a ranker like her. He was then startled as the quest window popped out again. A linked quest was created and it was called a witch hunt. This quest was solely for her. The #1 block mage inside the game, Black Flame Dragon of Darkness, didn't expect something like this would appear. She's now wondering why the system gave her a quest like this. Back to Burhan Dukedom. These familiars were happy seeing their master again. They really have been waiting for Dex. Satan and El bombarded our MC with information and he told them to just calm down first. The Demon King then scolded Dex because he used the power of the Necromancer. He's sure that humans would not sit by and do nothing with this dark presence lurking around. And for the first time, El agreed to what Satan said. Lich Argamer's name was even on the blacklist of the heavens. She recommended him not to use this power again. That statement right there annoyed Satan and they started to argue again. Satan was already at his limit and asked El if she wanted to have a formal fight. This angel reminded the Demon King that their current score was. She was more than happy to repeat the history again. The second holy demonic war started to unfold right in front of our MC's eyes. He thought that there's really not a single peaceful day. But with all the things that have been happening, Dex was happy because he was able to disrupt the game again. This meant that more plausibility points were coming in his way. He also intends to inform the world about the revival of this god of death. This will surely send fear to everyone who's inside Arcadia. Dex smiled as he thought about the reactions of the hero wannabes inside this game. A day had passed by and we're now in the Holy Empire. Egudiel came back and immediately reported to the Pope and the Saintess what happened in Burhan Dukedom. He revealed that the culprit was none other than Lich Argamer. It startled Sylvia as she heard this name. This report also confirmed what the Saintess saw in her dreams. The Piece of Darkness was the greatest necromancer in Arcadia. The Pope was now having a headache because they have kept their influence away from the people. They thought that someday, the lost lambs will still find their way back to enlightenment and repent of their sins. But in the end, people started to create chaos around the world. This situation had created a major event inside the game. The Pope now asked this #1 Holy Knight to take care of this situation right away. He wanted all the evils to be judged and to be driven out of this continent. Egudiel assured the Pope that he will do his best to carry out this mission. This formally started the war between the good and the evil again. A formal quest was also sent to all the players of Arcadia. Because of the actions of Lich Argamer, the Holy Empire made their move against all the evils. They now asked for the adventurers' help to eradicate the villains in this game. It was the same time when this white-haired lady received her linked quest, and she still doesn't know what to do with this one. The holy demonic war that happened in Arcadia was from two different sides. One of them was the holy camp, which consists of holy knights, priests and other light-attributed classes. On the other side was the evil camp, in which undead warriors, necromancers, and other dark-attributed classes consisted of. Naturally, both sides were on bad terms with each other, and this was even known to the players who had been playing this game. Lots of discussions about each other's side were being brought up. These conflicts were often then led to players having PKs or player kill. All of these things were fine because they didn't lead to an all-out war. The game has also set some rules to prevent this incident from happening. They made the towns and villages to be a safe place for players. Those who will do some crime will then be punished by the security troop NPCs. But as of right now, a mysterious quest that promoted more battles between good and evil was created. An alert saying that the Pope had declared an all-out war against all evil. The rule that prohibited players from killing each other was temporarily removed. This single declaration from the Holy Empire had clearly shook the balance of power between these two races. Back to the snowy mountain. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness was still looking at the quest window. She can't believe that a total of 50 million dark mages were needed to be executed for this task. She thought that the developers were already out of their minds because this number was nearly the size of Korea's population. She also planned to stay at the nearby town for the time being as this conflict was still ongoing. But as she entered the town, a notification popped out. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness found out that this place was now a PK zone. She was shocked because the rule of no PK was lifted. This also meant that this town was dangerous. Inside this town, a battle just concluded. This priest just defeated a player with dark class and the system rewarded him for this. His contribution was then added to the total quest requirement for the holy camp. He was now more ecstatic, and as he looked around, he saw someone that caught his attention. It was this white-haired lady. She knew that this was not a good sign. All of those who belonged to the holy camp were now staring at her. She tried to ask them to calm down and talk this thing out, but it was too late. A security troop NPC shouted throughout the town to tell everyone that a black mage had entered the town. The guards started rushing towards to kill her. She then figured out that this quest was really serious because even the NPCs were involved. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness knew that she had no other choice. She closed her eyes and used her Dark Swarm skill, and it got these guards. A series of red notifications then popped out. This lady had killed a lot of NPCs and players with a single attack. Her name was now painted with red color. She's still catching her breath because that was too sudden. This lady just defended herself, but before she could process things out, more and more players were now heading towards her direction. She thought that she should just run away for now. Meanwhile, at the vicinity of Burhan Dukedom, Dex was also notified about the newest linked quest that the game created. Satan saw this and told his master that this was the reason he asked him not to get overboard. Our MC explained that all he did was to get more quest rewards and this was not his fault. Hearing his reasoning, Satan knew that his master was really a psychopath. The Demon King was now panicking because he knew that they just poked the bee's hive. This was all because of Lich Argamer's power. He stopped and thought of a solution. Satan asked Elle to do something about this situation. He asked her to go and mediate this one before it was all too late. He explained that a war was about to break out. This was also just because their master used their powers recklessly. He thought that angels wouldn't want some bloodshed, but from Elle's perspective, this was perfectly fine because they could take this chance to wipe all the evil beings. She even looked forward to participating on this quest. That moment right there reminded Satan that this angel was like his master. Dex then spoke. He knew that this quest had really some strong sentiments and it won't end easily. And because Satan's race was in danger, he started lashing his anger out to Dex. He told his master that this was all his fault, and if he wouldn't do something to prevent this war from happening, Satan will not lend him power ever again. Our MC thought that this was really now a problem because his familiar started acting up. On the back of his mind, Satan really has a point. Dex didn't expect that it would lead to much greater consequences. Dex then personally asked Elle if she could do something about this problem. He even pointed out a specific part of this quest that he wanted to alter. Right now, this quest requires the Holy Camp to judge 50 million villains. As for Dex, these people really didn't do anything. And it would really be unfair if they got killed just because of the necromancer's power. He even added the saying, "Hate the sin, not the sinner." He even promised Elle plenty of plausibility points if she'll do this favor. That statement was the only one this familiar was waiting for. She immediately changed her decision and told her master that she will do something about this. Dex and Satan had this expression on their face because Elle was acting like a beach. Our MC has given her 1500 plausibility points for this one. Elle immediately left after this notification popped out. She also reverted to her original form and went to the Holy Empire. A few moments later, this angel was already coming down from above and showed herself to the believers of their God. All of the people at prison couldn't believe what they were seeing. Even Sylvia was amazed and thrilled. Elle then started delivering her message to them. She said that this one was from God himself. She needed everyone to pay attention to what she was about to announce. And just like that, the linked quest for the witch hunt was altered. Dex was happy to see this notification. Satan rushed to see how it went, but then something was wrong and we could tell by the looks of Satan's face. Dex was also shocked about the changes that Elle made. He questioned the system if this thing was for real.